What is up, everyone? Welcome to NerdJamTV.com's weekly Thursday night stream of Hunter Cormier's Nordstead Point, or as I like to call it, Hunter's Heavy Metal Fantasy. Hunter is our DM, and we have Savannah playing Buttercup Lee, Eddie playing Dr. Victor Mutare, and myself, Matthew Wallen, playing Bruce Fantana. Every session has been a lot of fun, but I think we can all agree that our special Friday night stream last week was easily our best one so far. And considering they've all been great, that really says a lot. We really appreciate you guys joining us. Thanks for tuning in. And make sure to check out Hunter and Eddie's Tabletop podcast at Proficiency, where I will literally guarantee that you will enhance your tabletop experience if you listen to that podcast. It is America's greatest D&D podcast. Maybe someone in Europe does it better, but here in the States, at least in the continental United States, it is definitely the greatest D&D podcast. Check it out at Proficiency, nerdjamtv.com. And with that, Hunter, why don't you take it away?
Thank you very much, Matt, for that awesome intro. Welcome everybody to the Nordstead Point game. We have Matt playing Bruce Fantana, Eddie playing Victor Mutare, and Savannah playing Buttercup Lee. We did have a doozy of a session last session. We're going to run through some recap real quick. We very notably had some inter-party conflict, which was very interesting. I'm going to sort of buzz us through this situation because there's a lot that happened here. Basically, you guys went to these series of sea caves outside of town that are known to be very dangerous to the townsfolk, called Finnegan's Bucket. And within Finnegan's Bucket, Bruce had a couple bonding moments with a sea serpent early on that seemed to confuse it, but it was quickly killed by Braxis and Buttercup. Connecting the white eyes of the serpent with those of enchanted Beatrice, the enchanted singing girl, Bruce came to the conclusion that these serpents may be people. Even knowing this, Bruce prioritizes the well-being of his new companions over the lives of what he suspects may be human victims, and assists the party in nearly killing another serpent. At this point, Bruce takes a moment to inform the party of his suspicions, and that he would prefer not to kill anymore. Victor disagrees, suggesting that the serpents were never human to begin with, but are possibly being controlled, given that the creature prioritized its own life over those of the torched eggs. After rolling a nature check, however, he determined that the behavior was consistent with that of a wild animal. Bruce takes a moment to contemplate and mourn the headless serpent Braxis had crushed against the ceiling, which Buttercup and Victor both state they find odd. They also each note that Bruce seems to be withholding a sort of grim sadness for the fallen creature. Victor watches without comment, but Buttercup finds herself a little uncomfortable with Bruce's unexpected emotion. Feeling very conflicted about killing the serpents, Bruce channels his frustration into a hostile bat's wing and rips it kind of violently off the body in a pretty gruesome display that the others witness, and then discovers a nest of serpent eggs. And this is where things kind of get spicy. As you guys approach these eggs, Braxis asks the others if he should crush them. Bruce quickly speaks up, saying he wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do. Buttercup retorts that he shouldn't feel bad about killing things, to which Bruce replies that a baby who cannot defend itself is not an opponent and that killing them felt wrong. Braxis reasonably points out that those same babies will eventually grow into threats, but Bruce responds that being threatening isn't in itself a good reason to kill someone, pointing out the formidable strength of both Braxis and himself. Buttercup then is like, hey, don't sweat it, I've got 2 eggs of my own, but since Bruce is worried about them, since Bruce was worried about them, but it was clear that both she and Braxis were kind of firm in believing yeah, we need to destroy these eggs, it's the right thing to do. Seeing their lack of empathy, Bruce questions whether they were really so frightened of babies, and Buttercup, locking eyes with him, strides over to the eggs and purposely shoves her dagger into one. This sends Bruce into a blind rage, and eyes glazed over, he moves to strike Buttercup. Seeing the conflict, Braxis moves to intercept the strike, attempting to interpose himself between Bruce and Buttercup. Bruce drops into stance, throwing a strike which would kill a normal person, But seeing Braxis out of the corner of his eye, he pulls his punch at the very last minute, trying not to hit someone he respected. Braxis roars in retaliation and destroys the eggs, making the decision final. Buttercup quickly speaks up and explains to Bruce that it had to be done to prevent others from being harmed, the people of Norstead Point, which extinguishes the rage within him, but not the conflict. In an interesting moment between the two characters, Buttercup, sympathetic, walks over to Bruce, stating that her mother had taught her a similar lesson, but the hard way. Bruce replies that no one likes the blood on their hands, implying that Bruce had a lot of blood on his hands, and the two find common ground in their mutual suffering. Neither of you explained yourselves any further, however. Braxis then offered Bruce a serpent egg of his own, but a gelatinous cube emerged rapidly from the dark, drawn by Braxis's roar. During the fight, both Bruce and Braxis were personally responsible for saving the other from engulfment within the caustic gel. Afterwards, Bruce and Braxis fist bump in a mutual pardoning, having reconciled during the struggle for their lives. The group takes a short rest before descending further into the caves. Awesome scene between everybody. Other than that, you guys basically descended further into the cave, discovering the remains of what appeared to be an old temple. You learned of the history of a merfolk civilization developing from nomadic hunters to a thriving city grown from coral. You also found large coral statues of a 6-armed crab that bear resemblance to formations in town. Upon reaching the final room, you guys found what appeared to be like a ceremonial room, where Buttercup finally used the aquamarine amulet, which summoned a very confused Marrow. Although it could not speak to her, it understood the intention she willed to it. She took a risk and allowed the Marrow to use the aquamarine, singing the sole remaining mermaid priestess out of petrification. The priestess was in shock at the state of the surrounding temple and your presence within it. But then, she inducts you with song into her order. You found your ephemeral bodies witnessing the growth of their civilization, as well as 4 priestesses singing into the black depths below, eventually calling to them a colossal creature that you couldn't quite make out. You also note that a sort of bioluminescent path sort of develops down into the dark below, and there were merfolk who were bringing back these red gold orbs that they seemed to revere. This was consistent with the inscriptions on the wall that you guys had seen. Afterwards, the priestess was sort of in shock about the state of the situation because there was no one around to re-petrify her, but you all opted to bring her back. Bruce noted that she was particularly beautiful.
She was a 10, right?
She was a solid 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
One of, like, you will rarely witness anything this beautiful.
Some hot ladies in this town.
Some hot ladies. Well, so this mermaid priestess, she has a sort of like alien and exotic beauty to her. But as y'all were bringing this priestess back to the cave, and Bruce was flexing his raw game, Buttercup was walking towards the cave when she suddenly like got an impulse to sort of turn her head, and turning her head, her vision sort of zoomed out way farther than it sort of naturally should, and she had this moment where she sort of like zoomed in across the landscape up to the mountain formation in the distance, up to a cave with a crystal tree and a massive bird figure within it. And they sort of like locked eyes across like these miles here. Before she sort of like whiplashed back out of it again and like shook her head and walked into the cave behind you guys. Which gets us caught up pretty much to about now. The priestess, which had introduced herself to Bruce as Ashta, had sung a song for Beatrice Clifton, who was sort of like hovering in the air, singing her own song. And there is, of course, rain sort of dripping up out of the ground. It's the saltwater rain, as before. But the song that Ashta provides has sort of like eased up the symptoms of Beatrice, and Bruce as well. Although, Bruce, you're not showing serious symptoms yet, you do feel a little better hearing this song.
Can Bruce try to dance with her while she sings?
You're welcome to dance.
Okay. It's the mer lady
She's
that's
resting.
singing, right?
She is resting in the water right now, but she is sort of singing when she can to bring Beatrice some relief.
Okay. Yeah, Bruce is just gonna go over there and dance a little bit, I guess.
Okay, so you're going like so you like splash into the pool, right? It's super loud, gets Ashta's attention immediately. She stops singing and looks at you.
He just keeps dancing.
Buttercup like
It's
face
gonna-
palms so hard and is just groaning. She's like, "Oh my god!"
All right, keep in mind you guys all have fresh inspiration because we're just starting. Bruce, go ahead and roll me a performance check. Let's see how good your dancing is.
So, are you implying that I should use my inspiration on my performance check?
I'm implying that you can if you want it to be good, but you certainly don't have to.
That's an 8. We'll keep the 8.
Okay. So, watching you, this beautiful mermaid figure, unable to speak your language, sort of blinks her like double eyelided black eyes and kind of cocks her head kind of curiously as you sort of wave your arms and legs about in a bizarre way. Buttercup and Victor, it's not particularly good.
Mr. Fantana, are you feeling ill? You seem to be having a seizure.
I'm just getting down, bud.
Are you sure about that? Because it kind of, kind of looks like you're having an episode of sorts.
Dude, are you guys able to dance better? Because if you wanna show Bruce Fantana how to dance, sure.
Would you
I
guys
have
like to show
titties.
Bruce Fantana how to dance?
I'll roll it.
All right, initiate dance party, everyone. Keep in mind, you've just like slaughtered a bunch of bats and sea serpents. You're covered in blood.
That's how we unwind, man.
Jesus.
Dance it out. Just dance it out.
Dance the
go ahead
pain
and roll
away?
that
What?
performance Check whenever you like. And Victor, if you would like to engage as well, feel free to roll a performance check.
Victor does not dance.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
actually moves over to
Marginally better.
Ashta
Victor.
with a bag of medical tools.
Okay. Victor, you have a critical eye. As you are preparing to assess Ashta here, you sort of casually like glance over at Buttercup, who has responded to Victor's request, and you note that she is equally terrible at dancing, but she is only very, very slightly better.
Bruce kind of looks at her and says, "Yeah, that's way better. Okay, yeah, good one."
With that, Buttercup's like, and I'm gonna go over here, and goes around the corner so that way she could like try to figure out a way to like clean herself because they got like monster goo on them.
Buttercup escapes the situation. Okay. Victor, what are you trying to do with Ashta? She's going to sort of curiously watch this interaction with Buttercup as Buttercup's kind of like waving her arms like awkwardly in the air and like kind of wiggling a little bit, and then she's going to turn and look over at you as you approach.
Well, as I approach, I do have a bag of medical tools, but mostly trying to ascertain if there is anything I can do to improve her condition.
Okay.
Because she seems very weak. I'm wondering if it's a food thing or if medicine would help, that kind of thing.
Okay. So she sort of like pauses and like kind of turns and tilts her head and sort of looks at you up and down. And she says a few things in a language you don't understand. But she's sort of like questioning quietly as a sort of like, hello, like what are you doing there?
Victor pulls out, he would have some food with him, so he pulls some out and offers it to her, And then he also opens his bag of medical tools and mostly pulls out vials of medicine, basically, that he might have for various treatments, like herbs for fever, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Um, okay. For starters, what kind of food would you have on you, Victor? What exactly are you offering here? Are you offering Cliff Bars? Like rations?
Any more beef
Honestly,
stew?
I probably have like, as far as trail rations go, it'd probably be like either dried meat or some kind of hardtack or something of that nature.
Okay. Uh, as you offer food, you know, she's going to sort of take it, like kind of seeing you set all of these down. Victor, you notice she's particularly interested in these sort of like different like assortments of things that you're like setting on the ground. Uh, and though she doesn't have a way to communicate with you, she's sort of like looking at the stuff and looking back at you. And as you're offering this stuff to her, she's taking it and sort of holding it, like not sure what it is. She kind of smells it and looks at it. Trying to give a mermaid dried meat. They don't know what dried meat looks like.
Jerky?
Jerky. Underwater people don't have jerky.
Yeah, you know, they're under the water
They'd
where
have-
it goes blub 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 blub.
Yeah, they wouldn't have like dried fish.
So
either,
she's
maybe.
basically like holding this strip of jerky and like looking at it like, what is this thing? Like, what are you asking me to do with this?
I take another piece of it and eat it myself, kind of showing her that it's food. But if that isn't what she needs,
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
honestly inclined to think she would probably like fish.
So she tries it a little bit and she's chewing it and she's kind of like surprised. You know, it's very tough. She's not accustomed to her food being like quite that tough, you know. But then as the flavor starts to kick in, she is gonna just go to town and like ravenously eat this food. It would appear that she's quite hungry.
All right.
Bruce, you would see this as well. Buttercup, I guess you're just washing your face over there. What exactly are you doing up there?
She's like, okay, so they're dudes, and she's having a modest moment where she's trying to like get what she can off of her clothes
Okay.
because she feels dirty and she doesn't like feeling dirty. That's like just no. So she's gonna be popping out from around the rock right about now, and after trying to like right her clothes and stuff like that, and sees what's going on, she's like, oh.
If you're interested, I would point out that there is another pool of water to the southwest. If you're trying to like rinse your face off.
Yeah, she's gonna end up going over there, but she looks over at Victor feeding the lady and Bruce's terrible dancing still and the floating girl, and she's like, I thought my life was weird as it was. Yeah, okay.
It's an unusual sight. You certainly didn't expect to see something like this, with Beatrice hovering over the water, Bruce dancing, and Victor talking to a mer person. Bruce, what are you doing at this point? You did dance. It certainly attracted her attention. You were engaged by Buttercup, and Ashta is very interested in Victor's odds and ends.
Bruce is having a fun day. So can she only move in the water? She's limited to the water, correct? We'd have to like carry her somewhere else.
No, she can move on land.
Okay.
However, this dry coral is very sharp and it is not comfortable for her.
Okay. And she's not trying to eat what Victor's offering, correct?
It's very coarse. You know, it's like sandpaper
Hey,
almost.
hey, Victor. I mean, if she doesn't want any, I would totally eat some of that. I'm just throwing it out there.
Victor's gonna go ahead and pass Bruce some of his rations as well, just so people can get fed.
It's fuel.
I'm probably gonna wind up wandering and going into town and actually see if I can get a hold of some fish for us.
Could I lead her over to the wall with the moss and the stuff and just be like, hey, look at this.
Yeah, definitely. So what exactly are you doing to lead her over? You just sort of come over and like get her attention.
I'm gonna say, hey, Athie, come over here. Let's go look at this wall. He doesn't get names right. It's a quirk. Yeah, he's just, hey, come over here, and he's gonna like kind of motion with his arm.
Okay.
What do you think of this? It's a lot of cool stuff on that.
Okay. So, Bruce, she's got like a face full of like jerky and I guess biscuit rations or hardtack, I think is what Victor said. And she's like munching on this food that Victor's giving to her. And Victor, go ahead and mark this off. She's like munching up your rations here. But Bruce, as you put this out on the wall, go ahead and show everybody here again what this looks like. She is going to point at it sort of excitedly and speak rapidly in a language you don't understand. But she does seem quite excited by it. She sort of like slowly makes her way across this coral here.
Excited in a good way or a bad way?
A good way.
Oh, okay.
Well, she's kind of like fish flopping across the floor to be like, look at this.
She's not like flopping, okay? Think like a
Pogo stick.
You know, she's sort of like she serpent rides over. It's just not the smoothest thing for her. Like scales. No, she doesn't have scales. She has skin.
Bruce says, "You're welcome."
Yeah, so she points at it and then turns and speaks to all of you, and none of you really recognize what she's saying. And you can see she seems a little disappointed that, like, you don't understand. She also... Roll me an insight check.
Everyone?
Everyone, yeah.
18.
6. Classic Bruce.
Classic Bruce.
What day is it again?
16. Okay, so Buttercup and Victor, the two of you notice she does seem to be profoundly sad as she's sort of talking about this. But, like, seeing this on the wall, she sort of takes a look around the room, you know, at, like, the moss and the fungus and just the dirt. And she sort of just, like, sighs.
Bummer.
Yep, nothing else. I mean, she can't really. She tries to like say a couple more things to you, but she very quickly realizes it's kind of pointless because you don't understand.
At this point in time, Buttercup looks at Victor because she noticed the jerky and like how he was passing it to people. She's like, so rations seem to be getting a little low. Do you need me to, you know, like try to help with that in some way? I don't know. Maybe we can go buy some fish or whatever.
I would also point out for this particular context, Buttercup, have you ever seen Victor lay out all of his like alchemical ingredients before?
No, but she is kind of like curiously eyeballing them, but also being respectful of his space because he is also a doctor, okay? And he did give her like super eyes.
You note that it does seem like particularly similar to your craft. You recognize several of those ingredients. There's several that you don't, though.
She makes a mental note of that and puts it in the back of her mind for later, but then looks at Ashta and then bends down and puts her hands in the water and says water, and then looks at Ashta to see if she could understand while like patting and like running her fingers through the water, see if they could start trying to form some form of understanding.
Okay, I see. So you're trying to sort of like communicate that the word for this is water?
Yes.
Okay. As you say that, like, and you sort of slap it and you say like water, roll me this be persuasion to get your point across. I feel like to use like body language. Yeah, go ahead and roll me persuasion on this to try and like communicate clearly. Wow. Okay.
Holla.
Nice roll.
Pretty good.
Okay. She sort of like slithers up, kind of interested. And she says, like interesting. Like she's like water, and she sort of like spins up her finger, and it's sort of like the water, the surface of the water sort of coils up into like a little spiral as she lifts this thin trail of water out. It sort of swirls it in a group around you guys, and then it comes together to form like a ball of water in the center. And she says, Mierdu, teaching you the Aquayan word for water.
Ah, okay. Yeah, we're water disciples now, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
You all know the shape water cantrip now, as well as a sleep spell that will completely exhaust you.
Cool. Okay.
Why doesn't the artificer spell list have comprehend languages? Damn it!
Kind of surprising, actually.
This
Weird.
makes Buttercup super happy though. She smiles and she nods, and so she tries to pronounce it, Mirdu, and then just the water again, water, and she knows her name is Asha, so she puts her hand against her chest and goes. She thinks for a second. She's like, Buttercup's way too hard. Leave.
Okay. She kind of has like a hard time pronouncing like the L. It kind of comes out as like ori sound, like WR-ish sound is. So like ori, and then, but she can work with that, and then she's got. I think Bruce actually introduced himself as Bruce. So
Bruce.
she's gonna call him like Bruce. That's easy enough. And Victor, I don't think, have you introduced yourself?
I have not. I'll go ahead and
Okay,
take the
she
time and
introduced
yeah,
herself as
touch
Asha.
my chest and say, Victor. Very,
When she says your name, Victor, it's kind of like clicky, almost like kicked her, almost kind of like that. But she understands now who you are. She introduces herself to all of you.
Bruce flexes and points to his bicep and says, "Muscle."
Bruce, she sort of slithers up to you and places a hand on your chest.
Bruce flexes the other arm.
Nods and says something. You're just flexing.
He's flexing so hard.
Muscle.
She nods enthusiastically, smiling, and she says something to you that you don't understand. And then turning back to look at the others here. What would y'all like to do?
Buttercup looks at Victor. She's all like, Victor and Bruce, and she's like, we need to get some food in here, not only for her, but for us as well. I've got a little bit of money I can chip in. Does anybody else have anything?
I actually have quite a bit of funds with me. Victor has long basically harvested monster parts and sold them to various people as he's in his travels, as that's kind of his thing. Anything that he doesn't need, he sells to people that could possibly need it.
Okay.
I think I have
So-
like 10 gold pieces.
I'm gonna go ahead and
Everybody roll me a perception check.
yay. That's
Victor.
as high as I can get.
Okay, Victor, you hear a sort of like crumbling outside and like what sounds like a couple people sort of talking to each other as they're climbing down the rope outside the cave. Buttercup, you hear this
Weird.
as well.
Our priestess here needs to hide. Victor points at the water and kind of looking at Ashta. and says he's trying to convey that she needs to hide under the water, but he's not sure exactly how he can.
Bruce like motions, and then Bruce jumps into the water.
Okay, so she's going to like loudly like like sort of almost like belly flop as she like dives into the water and is going to splash loudly. But Bruce, you and Ashta are now both effectively in the water. Keep in mind, this is shallow water. It's not deep water.
Oh.
You're looking at like maybe 3 feet tops.
Ooh, okay.
But at this point, there are a couple voices here at the entrance to the cave. And someone's gonna be like, "Hello? Hello? Is anyone here?"
Victor is gonna rush to meet them at the entrance.
Okay, Victor, you run over. Buttercup, Bruce, what are y'all doing back there?
Buttercup turns to the voices and is like, "Hi, if you could follow Victor, I'm bathing."
Okay.
And then Bruce is gonna say,
Okay.
"Me too."
Okay. Good call, guys. So they're just like, oh, okay. Well,
Nudity seems to be a thing amongst my fellows. I apologize.
Nicholas,
This town.
or Victor, you know, Nicholas and Jocelyn sort of like look back and forth at each other. They're just like, okay, whatever. And they're just like, sure. Well, anyways, we've got those furnishings that you had commissioned. There's like a door,
yes.
2 tables, 3 cots. And they say Edmund and Yvonne over at Chastain's were kind enough to donate like some thick burlap sacks that you can essentially just like stuff, and they had stuffed it with like a bunch of like leaves and things for like some quick temporary bedding.
So, I'll go ahead and, I guess, I'll go ahead and help them bring them in over off to this branch of the cave off to the side here.
Okay.
I'm gonna point out that that's where the things need to go. And he does mention to avert eyes from the pool, and that's where Buttercup is
Now,
bathing.
keep in mind, Beatrice's singing is like reverberating throughout this cave, and there is like a sound of the rain coming up as well. So you're
Yeah.
asking them just not to look?
Well, I mentioned that we're keeping young Beatrice here to keep her safe amongst us, as being near us would be the safest place for her. So
Bruce starts singing like Beatrice.
You start
Oh,
singing
God.
like Beatrice? Okay,
Yeah.
roll me performance check, please.
uh,
15.
Bruce likes to sing in the shower.
Yeah.
Okay. 15's not bad. It's not quite as ethereally beautiful as Beatrice, but you're actually able to hit many of the same notes. Not all of them, but many of them.
Okay.
And Victor, as you're sort of, where exactly are you leading these guys? As you like kind of lead them into the
I'm gonna be taking like most of the stuff over off to this branch over here that we've cleared, just because it's been explored and it's mostly dry.
Okay, so right over here. You guys need to set up some like torches somewhere in this cave. As they're sort of
Yeah.
looking over this way, they can hear the singing, but the light's very dim. They're gonna roll a couple perception checks. They're very curious. And
I will go ahead and
they can't
produce
really see
that
it.
small light stone from my pocket as well, so that they can see better as we're bringing things in.
Okay. Okay. Well, they rolled a couple perception checks. They're able to see like this area easily enough, you know, but they're not able to see like 30 feet into the cave or anything like that.
Okay.
So they can't quite see what's going on over here, but they hear they hear splashing in the water. They hear Bruce and Beatrice singing. and they hear people bathing, so they're just like, what the fuck? But you guys are going to get. Here, let me go ahead and throw it down. You have a door, 2 tables, and 3 beds.
Since Bruce making all that noise over there, you know, Buttercup just sneaks away so she can see just fine in the cave and goes over to the other little body of water and starts cleaning herself up.
Okay. That's not a problem at all. Alright, so while I set this up, Jocelyn and Nicholas are basically just going to bring you these furnishes, and then they really don't have too much of a reason to be here other than that. As they're setting it all up, though, Victor, Jocelyn is going to ask you, "Hey, Doc, can I ask you something privately? Like when Victor or Nicholas is like climbing back up the rope, you know, outside."
By all means, what question do you have?
And he says, "Well," he says, I don't want to start any trouble here, but I feel like I'm getting sick or something." He says, I've just started sweating non-stop. And
You
it-
have?
Quarantine him.
It's been just since the other day, but I'm sweating all the time.
Do you remember doing anything particularly strange that day, out of the ordinary?
He says, "No. In fact, it started just yesterday."
Just yesterday. Do you know of anyone else has said anything similar?
He says, I mean, he kind of looks. Roll me a persuasion check as you ask him this.
Cool, I'm weirdly good at those.
Are you weirdly good at persuasion? Let's see. Okay. So, you see he's kind of reluctant to tell you, but he's sort of comforted by your kind of like doctorly demeanor, like, okay, like let's fix this problem for you, kind of approach, you know. And he's like, well, it's like, don't tell her I said anything, because I really shouldn't. But Marjorie over at the grocery told me she was doing the same thing. She said she's been sweating all day yesterday, just out of the blue. And he sort of like looks uncomfortable, and he says, "Say, we're not gonna end up like that Clifton girl over there, are we? Singing in the cave?" And he sort of points his thumb like back into the dark, out of sight from the Lightstone.
I am doing my level best to prevent that from happening to anybody else.
He says,
So,
"Okay. Well, I'll let you know if anything happens." You can see he's a little nervous. Actually, you can see he's very nervous, but he's trying to like keep it on the down low. But
he
spooked by the-
puts a
by
hand
the
on his
Clifton girl.
shoulder and just very calmly is like, "Listen, you have no need to worry. Things will be handled in due time, and you shouldn't have anything to concern yourself with. Trust me in this."
Okay. Roll me. Are you
deception check?
deceiving him? Yeah, roll me a deception check on that one.
I'm even better at those, but I didn't roll very well.
Okay. He's not convinced, but he appreciates that you're trying to be nice. But he says, "I don't know, Doc. There's a singing girl, and we all saw what happened last night when that lady came out of the Clifton house carrying that girl, and that rain that was following her." He says, "I don't know. I don't feel good about it. I don't feel." And that's when Nicholas is like starting to come back carrying like another, you know, something. He's coming back. He's like, "Hey, like help me out with this," you know.
He gives his shoulder another reassuring squeeze and says,
Doc.
"No, just
I don't know. Okay.
That's when Buttercup, like, she's done doing what she needs to do, so she's relatively, she's as clean as she can get, so she walks over. She's like, "Hi, is there anything I can help with?" Just to try to keep everything away from the area of where there's a priestess, a small floating girl, and a flailing Bruce.
Buttercup, are you pretty? Would you describe yourself as pretty?
Yeah.
As you walk up and you like offer to help, Jocelyn is gonna like sort of like stiffen up and he's gonna be like, "No, nothing, Doc." And he kind of smiles and nods at you, Victor, and then quickly sort of like turns and excuses himself. He's gonna go help Nicholas. He does not want to discuss it with you, Jocelyn, or Jocelyn, Buttercup.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go ahead and pull out a small go to my from my bag and my hip. I'm gonna pull out one of my potions of healing that I have, and I'm gonna go up to Jocelyn and get and kind of discreetly pass him the medicine, pass it to him, and he Jocelyn, now I don't need you telling others about what I've just given you. It's a medication that should help at least help stall your condition for as long as possible. Another deception check.
Yes, you're giving this to Jocelyn and you're doing it in front of Buttercup.
Like you said, I'm kind of trying to be discreet about it, so that the others don't really see it. I'm gonna wait for an opportune moment to kind of.
Okay,
give it
yeah,
to him.
go ahead and roll me a deception check. Good RP, by the way.
Nice.
Very good.
Wow. Yeah, very good.
Very good.
He seems reassured by it. What are you, out of curiosity, you're just giving him like a placebo, essentially?
I'm actually giving him one of my actual potions of healing that I make for the day.
Wow.
So I'm giving him one of those, something that will make him feel better, but won't necessarily take any of the effects away. Like something that will actually help him feel better.
Codeine.
Okay, yeah.
Basically, yeah.
You give him some lean.
Is appreciative. So Nicholas, who is actually also quiet and shy, the two of them sort of like deliver the stuff that they've built for you guys. Jocelyn mentions that he's going to go hunting with some of the hunters later on. Okay. As you guys are talking, Buttercup, can you roll me an insight check?
I failed it miserably.
Victor, can you also roll me an insight check? Okay. Victor, you note that when Buttercup like kind of isn't like she doesn't quite catch it, right? She's kind of oblivious to it, but Nicholas and Jocelyn are both kind of in awe at Buttercup, right? Because Buttercup's sort of decked out with like all of these like herbs and vials and like all of her various things, and she was witness last night in like this kind of like almost mythical moment as she's walking out of this house with this bewitched girl in her arms, you know. And they're both just like, holy shit, like this is that lady, you know. But that's basically it throughout their interactions. Jocelyn has mentioned that Marjorie also has begun sweating in a similar way, but Jocelyn's very hush-hush about it. He appreciates the medicine you give him. Bruce, while this is going on, what are you up to over here?
So my shape water allows me to change the water's color or opacity, correct?
I guess so. I haven't.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
So Bruce is actually going to use his shape water cantrip and change the water that he's like splashing around in with the mermaid lady. He's gonna change that yellow and just look at her and be like, totally looks like somebody peed in the water, doesn't it? What do you think about that? Totally looks like pee, right?
She sort of like, you see where her eyebrows would be, they sort of like raise in interest, you know. and she says something kind of enthusiastically in another language. Roll me an insight check.
Ooh, sure. Let me find Bruce. Let me find my token. There we
You
go.
can shift and double click your token, and it'll pull up your journal entry.
Oh, nice. Okay. So insight.
Yeah.
Oh, 7.
Okay, 7. Okay, so you're not sure what she's telling you, Bruce, but she seems interested in what you're doing. And she is going to sort of like shape a water into like an image of you as the water kind of like heightens up. And it's
How
it
accurate
looks-
is the image of Bruce?
it's
Is it like?
very accurate. Like think like Sculpture of David.
Wow. Okay.
Bruce Fantana in the thinking man's pose.
Wow. Okay. Bruce is obviously like, he loves this, of course. Like there's a little bit of narcissism with Bruce, so he's like
Just a little bit. Just a smidge.
just a little bit. Yeah,
So
he's
she can
digging on
see
it.
that you fucking love this.
Yeah.
She kind of like laughs.
And then he can also do that as well, correct?
Yeah, I mean, not to the same extent
He
with
can-
the same mastery.
Bruce makes a triangle.
It's like
And then
like
points
the
to
water,
her
like,
and
wobbles. Yeah.
points to her and is like, it's you. But it's like upside down triangle. It kind of looks like her fin.
She like nods enthusiastically. Yeah. And she says something in a language you don't recognize.
Okay.
Okay. Beautiful moment over there. All right. So after a while, Buttercup, roll me an insight check as you guys are interacting with Nicholas and Jocelyn. Roll me another one. 13.
Better than it was before.
Mm-hmm. It's not particularly significant to you, but you do note that Nicholas and Jocelyn are both sweaty, but Jocelyn seems particularly sweaty. And it doesn't seem like he's working that much harder than Nicholas. That guy is sweating up a storm.
She keeps it to herself and just kind of looks over at Victor and nods her head, and vaguely, like very minor towards Jocelyn, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's an observation, but like you're not super sure about it, you know? You just note it.
Yeah, and what she ends up doing is she walks up over to the both of them. And she's
Okay.
like, hey, she's like, I heard y'all are, I heard that there will be some hunting later today. Is there any way if y'all catch anything that I can purchase some meat from y'all? And I have a favor to ask as well.
And they say, yes, of course. Yeah, we'd be happy to sell you some meat. Oh, and what's this favor?
She reaches into her pocket and pulls out the moss that was over on the other side of the wall. And she shows it to them and, hands them a piece. And she's like, this looks like normal moss, but it really isn't. It's got great healing properties, and I can make really good healing potions with this. And I'm hoping the more I find, the more I'll be able to treat the symptoms of Beatrice. Can y'all keep an eye out for anything like this and let me know if you see anything?
Nicholas kind of like shakes his head and he says, I'll keep an eye out, but I don't really see too much of that in the woods. But Jocelyn sort of speaks up and he's like, well, he says, that's cave moss. And he says, you might be able to find that in some of like the local caves around here. And he says, but there's a lot of it over at the mountains. And he says, but you don't want to go to the mountains. He says, those mountains are a weird place. And sometimes people go there and they don't come back. So we just try and stay away from the mountains in general. We stay near the edge of the forest.
Oh, well, that makes sense. If I need to, I mean, I can head there, but I'll keep that as the last resort. Thank you very much. And, her hair right now is like, because it's so humid, it went from being curly to kind of like poofy. And so she's 5'2", and she turns around and starts bebopping back into the caves. She's muttering under her breath, like, we need me, and, like rattling off a list in her head, but physically.
your
Wow.
hair like moves in like a bobbing cloud on your shoulders as you like walk away into the darkness. Okay, and these guys are going to excuse themselves and peace on out of here.
I'm actually gonna go ahead and follow them out and just let them know that I need to go buy some I'm gonna say aloud, I'm gonna get some provisions in town.
Okay. So you're going back into town. Bruce and Buttercup, what are you
Yes.
guys doing right now?
So Bruce, is he capable of making like a water ladder with his shape water?
Ooh, let me pull up the shape water cantrip. We'll see what's going on.
It
So-
can look like a ladder, but I don't think it's climbable.
I didn't actually.
It would only be, I think, 5 feet.
It's within a 5-foot cube. Or change the flow of water. It doesn't have enough force to cause damage. Okay. Forms and shapes. You're trying to make a 5-foot ladder with water.
Yeah.
Can freeze the water provided there are no creatures in it. The water unfreezes in 1 hour. You got it. You cannot make a water ladder, but you can form a water ladder and then freeze it into like a thin water ladder.
So
5 by 5 cube is pretty thick water ladder.
Bruce is gonna do that, and then he's gonna look at his friend and like take his hands and kind of like measure it like, you know, like bigger, and he's gonna like point to her and see if she can make a big ladder.
So you're trying to get her to make a ladder but a bigger version of it.
Yeah.
All right, let me see.
Why?
Because why not?
What does that mean? Let me see. Okay.
Buttercup at this point in time, she is just checking over Beatrice again and like cleaning her up and checking vitals and all that good jazz.
Okay. Bruce, you form a water ladder which like solidifies into ice, and you're sort of pointing at it. And kind of not understanding, she is going to sort of like swirl like a rich, like again, like sculptured looking, like beautiful engraved column. I say engraved, but it's like it's intricate rather. And it sort of rises up out of the water. It's very tall. It goes about 15 feet up in the air.
Only 15.
Much of the water in the pond is going to sort of like recede a little bit for a moment and then sort of like refill as more water bubbles up from below.
Okay. So his goal is to see if she can make some sort of transportation device to get them into Nordstead Point. Does he feel like from her display she might be able to make something large enough?
To get into Nordstead Point, it's a 250-foot rock column.
I'm making climbing gear already.
Victor,
Like,
Okay.
I'll be making.
the only way for you guys to get up there at this point is to use climbing equipment, which Victor is capable of creating, but is not locally available because it's so unusual, and
Okay.
nobody goes to the mountains.
Fair enough.
If Victor crafts those, you guys will be able to climb up that way.
Okay.
All right. Anything else you guys are wanting to do in this cave? At this point, it's starting to get about like 3 o'clock-ish.
No, Buttercup is just trying to take care of Beatrice right now and just check over and everything like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Bruce wants to hang out with his friend.
Okay. And Victor, you are headed into town?
Yes, I'm gonna head into town.
All right. You guys back over here as we follow the adventures of Victor Mutare as he travels through Norstead. Okay, Victor. What exactly would you like to do?
So I would like to go ahead and go to the grocery and see if I can get a hold of some either dried fish or fresh fish.
Oh, don't forget about the fisherman's shack too.
Okay, you're going to the fisherman's shack.
Yeah, I guess that's if that's the best place to go to get fresh fish.
Okay.
Then yeah.
All right, Victor. So you're walking through town, and are you headed to the grocer or the fisherman's shack first?
I guess the fisherman shack first, because they would probably just have fish straight up there.
Okay. So you're headed that way when a door to one of these houses suddenly opens and a woman is going to step out. And while I find the art for her, she is going to tell you, she looks kind of worried looking about, and she's going to walk up to you, like very quickly, Victor, and say like, Doctor, may I speak to you?
Absolutely. What may I help you with?
And she says, I'm sorry to approach you like this, but she says, I'm a little concerned, you see, and I don't want to cause any alarm, but she says, I've been feeling a bit ill lately, and it came on rather suddenly, and I've started dripping at my fingertips.
You have. Interesting.
Victor, looking at her face, she seems a bit pale. She says, I feel a bit off. And I've heard some of the others talking about it as well.
How many others have you heard, ma'am?
And she says, well, I heard there's someone over in this other house as well. And she sort of points over. And she says, the old Tim's house. Says one of the huntsmen there. Apparently he's feeling a bit ill himself. But he said the same thing. He said it just doesn't stop, even when he's sleeping. He wakes up and the bed sheets are wet.
When did this start occurring? Was it yesterday?
She says, well, I suppose it was about the afternoon yesterday. She
So
says,
afternoon yesterday, would
she
that
says-
have
I'm sorry, go on.
would that have been after we all ate the meal?
It would have been before.
Okay.
But Bruce Fantana killed Iron Eye, I want to say at about like 11 in the morning. So still fairly early on, and she's telling you like yesterday afternoon to give you like a frame of reference. So before the party, but after Iron Eye.
Okay.
And she says I don't want to say anything, what with all the trouble at the Clifton house. And she sort of like points towards like the broken door, you know, on this house where Beatrice was seen, you know, with singing with all the rain dripping up out of the ground. She says, we're all a bit scared, mind you, so please just don't tell anyone I said this.
Ma'am, your fear is justified, but you should all be looking out for each other. Keeping secrets like this will not help anybody else. We must all, at this point, all of us must come together to try and help each other. I need to know who all is sick. If this will need to be public. If I need to go door to door to start and asking the folks of this town if any of them are ill, then I shall.
And she says, we're afraid, Doctor. We're afraid of what
I
happened.
know.
That's why Cecily's over in the stables over there. Sad as it is. A grown woman, her.
Yes, and I will say that Miss Clifton is quite the strong woman. She seems to be handling this as best as she can. She seems much braver than, honestly, the lot of you.
Ooh.
Why would you say that?
Ouch. Burn.
He's
Get him.
actually upset that she's in the stables. Like, he's upset that this town seems to be turning its back on everyone and on its own people, unwilling to help each other, and
him.
it's
Victor, you have seen
terribly
this before.
frustrating.
You have seen this before. They're basically quarantining her because they're afraid of getting like a bewitching sickness. Because as far as the rest of the townspeople know, they think it's a sickness. And so they are trying to avoid catching whatever the Cliftons have that's caused this horrible nightmare.
And I know I get that, and it's like, and all of your quarantining seems to have not done any of you good. All of you, several of you, have come down with this illness, even though you have kept Miss Clifton away from the rest of you, and she is not exhibiting any of these symptoms that you seem to be.
She seems like kind of taken aback at this, and she's like, "Well, we don't mean any trouble, Doctor. We're just trying to look out for our own. We have families, you see."
It's not trouble for me, mind you. This is trouble for your whole village that you all seem to be fearfully ignoring, hoping it will go away on its own.
Okay.
He's definitely frustrated that people aren't helping each other out because of his whole, honestly, because of his mindset, the fact that people won't work together for the betterment of everybody infuriates him.
Okay. Well, what you're getting from these people is that they're shutting themselves in. They're scared. They are starting to show symptoms that they know Beatrice showed early on, long before she got as bad as she did now, but they're afraid because they don't want to end up like her. But she's going to hear what you have to say, and she's going to tell you, like, please, if you learn of anything I can do, please tell me. And again, she's going to reiterate, like, we're scared.
No, he kind of takes a deep breath and apologies.
You don't have to apologize.
No, because he does. He actually does apologize for.
Okay.
He's like, my frustration at the turns this illness seems to be taking are getting the better of me, and most of the traditional methods do not seem to be working. Let me
as
ask
you
one
say
question.
this, you can see the worry like deepen on her face, and like
I
her
see that,
skin,
and I
visibly rises.
clarify. I'm like, you have all been staying away from the Cliftons and isolating yourselves, and yet you seem to be exhibiting symptoms now, are you not?
She says, "Is it all hopeless then? Are
It
we
is
all going to
not.
catch this foul sickness?"
No. Well, let me ask you a question. Is there anybody else in your home that has this sickness as well, or is it just you?
And she nods and she says, "My son Peter, he's the same. He's looking a little green around the gills, and he's started sweating all day long."
At around the same time as you?
She says, "Come to think of it, yeah, yesterday. We didn't notice till the evening, though." She says, "I don't know if it happened
So-
at exactly the same time, but it's possible." Victor, at this point, you're going to notice someone else who sort of like sees you from across town, right? And it's going to be like this. It's kind of old, ragged.
Giant man with the broom.
And he's going to come over, and he says, Doctor, may I have a word with you? Please, just a moment."
he figures he knows where this is going, but he nods and he asks for a moment with the young lady and steps a little bit away with the young man.
Hmm. At this point, you're going to hear like another voice kind of come from this direction, and this sort of like distressed-looking woman kind of anxiously like makes her way over to you here, and she says, "Doctor, if I may have a moment of your time."
He absolutely. Just after this young man, he has something he needs to speak to me about.
And
but
you notice
I have
that
the feeling.
they're pale, Victor. Talking to these people, Victor, it's the same. They're also getting the symptoms. The older guy knows somebody else who's getting it. This other distressed-looking woman, she's the only one in her family who's got it.
Every single one of them, I ask around about the time, and see if see if it lines up.
They all noticed it at different points yesterday. Some of them noticed it at night. Some of them noticed it during the day. But that doesn't mean that they didn't all get it at the same time. They just didn't catch it or become aware of it until then.
Just trying to think. Also, what were we like? I guess we were in the cave fighting the crabs at that point in time, correct?
That was this morning. The crabs. Yes, the crabs was yesterday evening. I want to cut over real quick. Buttercup and Bruce, would y'all like to be doing anything over there in the cave right now?
Flirting.
I would say you've got like an hour or so. Bruce, throw down a persuasion check, man, to lay down that Fantana charm.
Oh my god.
Where's
Buttercup, what would you like to be doing?
Where's
in
my
that cave?
token?
At that point in time,
Feel free to work on a project if you'd like to progress something in particular or create something. You're more than welcome to.
well, the most that she can do at this point in time is make more potions and stuff like that, but she needs to also like replenish her arrows and everything like that. So after she gets done taking care of Beatrice as best as she can, she tells Bruce, she's like, I gotta go up into the town for a little bit. I will be back. And so she's gonna go into the town.
Okay. Buttercup. Bruce, at some point, Buttercup is going to leave the cave. It's just the two of you guys in there with Cecily now. But you're free to hang out there as long as you like.
That's when Bruce looks over at his mermaid friend and says, "Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you say my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think I'm the the guy who has everything?" Oh no. 19.
Wow. Bruce, Ashta is looking at you, and she's able to interpret. She's picking up on like something there. She sees you look a little bit sad for like just a moment, and you see her brow furrow just a little bit as she like touches your shoulder empathetically.
Then he says, Look at this trove. Treasures untold. How many wonders can one cavern hold? Looking around here, you'd think I got everything.
You look at the cavern around you. It's full of like darkness and a few wooden things. There's some rocks, some fungus. Sorry, go on.
He stops there. He's...
She nods and speaks in a language you don't recognize, but she seems touched by your words.
Does she say I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty? No.
She touches your chest again, and she like nods and speaks, and then sort of like kind of puts a hand on her own chest, and then says something kind of quietly, but she looks sad as well. You get the sense that this mermaid here is particularly sad.
Bruce offers her a hug.
She hugs you.
Do I have to roll for the hug?
Are you trying to like
No.
bear hug her or something?
No. Attack! Surprise!
Regular human hug.
Yeah. He just hugs her like sympathetically. Nothing
Okay.
weird.
You guys actually have. Now, Bruce, you had made a comment before that you don't really have any close friends. You have a lot of like fangirls, but not really anybody that you bond with. And it was very important to you when you were fighting those serpents earlier. These new like bonds that you were forming with your companions here. So I want to ask you this moment of empathy with this creature that like doesn't understand what you're saying, but both of you are sort of without language expressing this kind of like profound sadness that you're experiencing. What is that like for Bruce Fantana? It's unusual.
I feel like Bruce recognizes the look on her face, the look of loss. And for a split second, they both realize like they've been going through some things. They're going through some things. And they just have this like amazing empathetic moment of, hey, we're going to get through this together. And then that's when Bruce sees this look of sadness, embraces his new friend, and just kind of pats her on the back. And says,
Damn.
and he says it's going to be okay.
Okay.
He
She
is being like all sentimental doll.
Nobody's
know.
around. Nobody can see it.
Nobody can see it. Bruce, she is going to take note of this, and the two of you share like a barrierless moment of empathy.
Shields down.
Excellent RP, man. Very good.
Thank you.
So jumping back to Buttercup and Victor upstairs. Buttercup, as you're coming around the corner, let's see if I can port us. Here we go. Whoop.
Nice.
So as you're coming around the corner down here, past the Clifton house and its broken door, you are going to see Victor sort of surrounded by 3 people, you know, kind of on all sides, who are all kind of like questioning him anxiously.
At this, Buttercup immediately walks over because that could be an overwhelming situation. So she's gonna move over there and be like, "Hey, Victor, is everything okay?"
He looks at Buttercup and just plainly states, "We have more that have fallen ill in town. Many more."
A look of concern, a concern flashes across her face, and she looks at the 3 individuals in front of her, and she's like, "May I ask, are y'all feeling are you all feeling ill currently?"
And they kind of like anxiously look at each other. They look tired, you know. And the man nods first. He's like, yes, I'm not feeling well. And the girls kind of each follow, and they're like, yeah, we're not feeling well either. All kind of nervous to like inform the others, you know, that they're infected as well.
Immediately, she looks to the 3 of them and nods, and then turns to look at Victor and speaks plainly. She's like, "If there is 3 before us right now, there is bound to be more. We need to find a house, and we need to make a sick house now. This gets out of hand, and put all the people that are suffering together, so that way we have one location, and we can work together to get this handled."
Yeah, Victor, they told you they knew other people who had this as well.
So I look to the other 3 and I'm like, there is no shame in what we're doing now. Stop being afraid of each other. You must come together. Gather all that are ill. Go to the other doors, to the other houses in the town as well, and have them gather. We'll need to all work together to solve this.
Okay. They all look anxiously at each other, but sort of putting their faith in the 2 of you, and sort of bolstered by Buttercup's confidence and her being like, don't worry, like, here's what we need to do. I would point out to the 2 of you that the Clifton house is currently empty because Cecily is staying in the stables and Beatrice is with you guys down in the cave. So
Let's have everyone gather there.
I'm sorry? Oh, you want to gather them there?
Yeah.
Okay. So you tell these people like, hey, if you know anybody, go tell them like we're gonna gather at, inside the Clifton house. They're going to tell you it makes them anxious. They don't want to necessarily go into the Clifton house because they know what happened in there, and they don't want to risk like becoming more infected than they already are by this sickness.
Oh, at this, a look of pure disdain just shows up on Buttercup's face as she looks them up and down, like her eyes angry, and responds very, very quickly. She's like, well, anxious or not, you're going in there. And the girl's not there. Cecily is in the stables because y'all are being really ridiculous instead of helping one another. So stop being cowards and do as you're told.
I don't know whether to roll intimidation or persuasion for that. I want to say roll me one of each and we'll treat it as advantage.
All right, so you said intimidation and persuasion?
Mm-hmm. And you'll take the higher the first roll of each. Really, I'm just being lazy so I don't have to pick. But it's also like well done and good RP.
I fail. He's 5'2" and angry.
So at this, this lady here is going to turn and look at you, Buttercup, and she says, "Who are you to judge me? You don't know what I'm dealing with. I have a family to keep safe. I have people I need to consider. And you don't know what you're talking about quite yet. None of us know what the sickness is."
She immediately steps up into her face and stares at her. Eyes completely unfazed and is like, who's the one that's been taking care of Beatrice? Me, because none of you have the balls to offer a hand. So do you want to die or do you want to live? Make your choice.
She takes a step back and spits on the ground, and she says, "I'm not going to put my family at risk. I am willing to cooperate as much as I need, but I am not going to take one step inside that damned house." And she like
Then
points her
Victor
finger.
casually looks at her and says, "Then you will receive no treatment.
And she just like,
You and yours shall suffer because you have not taken the proper steps to help."
she throws her hands up and she says, "What good are you anyways? I thought I could count on you." And she's going to like turn and storm off into her house. And these people over here, sort of like taken aback at this. The girl is gonna kind of like take a step back, kind of surprised, and she says, and she says, are you sure? Are you sure it's safe?" And you can see like this guy up here is kind of like stroking his chin. He's like, like kind of considering it, like I don't know.
Gathering together, all of you together is the safest course, as we will be able to treat all of you at the same time. Having to run house to house to try and treat this entire town will take much too long.
Buttercup slowly takes a couple of deep breaths and she turns to look at the girl and she's like, I'm sorry. I have gotten rather attached to Beatrice, and I don't want to see anybody else going through this. But for the options that we have, this is the best course of action. There's only me and Victor here. You don't have anybody else here that's willing to try to help, nor another doctor. It would be best for us to treat you all in one location. It gives everybody the best fighting chance.
And the guy who's sort of like stroking his chin is kind of thinking like, are you sure it's not just gonna guarantee that all of us inside catch the same sickness?
Well, you all, the point of you all gathering is that you already all have the sickness.
And
you all
he's
need
kinda
to be
thinking
treated.
like, yeah, that's true. He says like, I guess I'll do it, and I'll spread the word. And
Thank you.
he kind of
I
like looks at you and he looks back over at the house and he says like, I know you got off to a bad foot there. But she and her husband do have a couple of kiddos to think about. And he says, I know you're not from around here, but it'd make me mighty sad to see those children go ill.
As it would for anyone. But nobody seemed to help Beatrice, though. And with that, Buttercup walks off, and she's gonna go towards Bertram's shop, so that way she can be like, okay, we're gonna need like rags and bandages and all
Okay,
the stuff.
you're going south.
Yes.
All right, watching her storm off. This guy's gonna say one last time to you, Victor. He's like, I feel like we're kind of out of our element, Doc. We ain't never dealt with anything like this before. He's gonna like kind of turn and make his way back. You know, this girl's also gonna like head her way out of here.
So, I go ahead and reach into my bag, get a piece of chalk, and walk up to the one lady that stormed off into her house and draw a large X over her door before I continue on my way.
Marked.
Dun, dun, dun.
Don't help this
We all know.
Okay. All right. So Buttercup, you're going to the general store or the gear shop?
She would think would be like more the general store than anything else for like
What are you
gauze and
looking
stuff like
for? You're just looking for general supplies?
general supplies, so that way she can go ahead and start stocking up the Clifton house, and then she's gonna go talk to Cecily about what's going on.
Okay, no problem. What are you trying to get from the Clifton house or for the Clifton house exactly? What equipment?
Extra bowls, more vials and stuff for the Victor and her to be making potions, and then going ahead and talking to Burchard about, hey, if you could talk to Nicholas for us, we're gonna need a lot of cuts.
Okay.
So just general
the thing
prep
is,
for everything.
You're asking for a good amount of stuff for like what you guys currently know is about 6 people. Or I guess
4
5
people.
now.
We're not treating 2 of them.
4, yeah, true, because you're not treating the kid either. Okay. So 4 people. All right. With this, Buttercup, you are pretty much out of money because you've already gotten some stuff to.
Oh yeah, no, she's flat broke.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead and go to the fisherman and see if I can trade, see if I can get a decent amount of fish, and see if they actually want any of the chitin that I had harvested. Like, I'm not gonna give them all of it, but I'll probably sell a little bit if they have use for it.
Okay. Bruce, what are you doing down there?
So Bruce is gonna look over at Athie and say, so what you're telling me is flipping your fins don't get you too far. Legs are required for jumping, dancing. And then just kind of like give her a thumbs up.
Okay. You're just gonna continue laying down game.
Yeah. No,
Bruce-
he's flirting.
Roll me persuasion check, Bruce.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna ask you to just roll me a bunch of persuasion checks over time.
So that's a 0.
You start down the path.
That lady sounds like a
11. Hey.
We'll see what the dice gods give us. Okay. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. All right,
That sounds ominous.
Victor. Victor, as you're approaching the fisherman's camp and you sort of like knock on the door, right? You are greeted by the old man who had, I forgot his name, who had helped Bruce Fantana with the fish guts before, you know? And sort of opening the door. He opens it. He doesn't say anything to you. He's not wearing a shirt, you know? He's skinny. He's got this big fluffy beard, and he opens the door all tan and just kind of like eyes you and doesn't say anything.
I wish to purchase some of your latest catch if you happen to have any.
Says, "Oh yes, yes, we've got fish." He says, "Come on in, go on in."
He follows him inside.
All right, cool. So he's got lots of like fish, just kind of like hanging up. It's stinky in this shack. It smells pretty bad, if you're being honest. This guy just like clearly isn't too bothered by it. And as he's sort of like showing you like the fish and setting you up with what you need, as you first come through the door, he's gonna sort of shout and yell like, "Hey, the doctor's here!" You know? And at this, another old man is gonna sort of like come out of one of these rooms. He says like, "Oh, good. I'm glad you're here, doctor. Look, I wanted to ask you about something."
By all means, what may I help you with?
And he says, "Well, here, let me take a seat." And he sort of sits over here at this table. He says, "Look, doctor, it's my foot. You see, I stepped on a fish hook about a year or so ago, and well, it just bothers the hell out of me." And this old man, right? He lifts his like leg, and as he's sliding his boot off, he does so very tenderly, Victor. And from like about the like mid calf down, his leg is swollen, veiny, and like purplish.
Oh
It
no,
looks horrendous.
I will definitely need to treat you.
He said, I stepped on a fish hook and I got about half of it out of there.
Okay.
He only wants to, you know, see the leg so that way he can chop it off and, you know.
I'm
have
not
it,
gonna
like-
cut off his leg.
Victor,
Are you sure?
it looks really bad. Like really bad. It would take a lot. to
Cut it
save
off.
this leg.
Cut it off.
It looks like roll
Roll the cut.
Roll me a medicine check. Roll me a medicine check. You don't have to. You can tell from a glance that it looks horrible. Roll me a quick examination.
Was this guy really nonchalant about it too? Just like, oh yeah,
Yeah, it's
stepped
just
on
like,
a fish
"Oh,
hook.
this is just my bad leg." you
So,
know?
He's an old sailor.
It
He doesn't
hurts,
care,
oh.
as long as he's, you know, got
He's
his
used
job
to it.
done and drinking.
that's pretty good.
All right, Victor. As you're looking at this like veiny purple swollen leg, it is horrendously inflamed. It is infected. It's highly infected. It would take a pretty good amount of time to get all of that infection out. It's theoretically possible, but it would be very difficult. You don't come across, and it's fascinating for you because you don't really get to see something get quite this developed that often. But this leg will likely spread the infection. Like there's a lot of rot on it, where it's just like moist, you know, and it will likely spread up the leg if the leg isn't amputated. That's like the easy fix, right? Is an amputation.
Yes.
But that's what you gather. It's highly infected. This leg's gonna have to go, unless you can like pull off some shenanigans. But it won't be. easy.
I can still whip up a potion to try and help him. But I would have to. I definitely am. I'm gonna take it as a challenge upon myself to treat this man.
Yeah.
Because this is the kind of thing that is intriguing to Victor. This is
Save
what he's
him.
here for.
Save him, Dr.
Apparently-
Mutare.
Apparently,
I'm gonna do my
half of
best to
that
save the
fish
foot.
hook- Apparently, half of that fish hook is still in there somewhere.
The doctor is in.
Surgery.
Surgery. All right. Okay, Victor. And so you get set up with all your fish. It's going to cost you a little bit of money, but not nearly as much as Buttercup's blowing on all these supplies.
So
Mind
I
you,
tell
for everybody else. Okay.
Yes, for everybody else.
So
all
yeah,
right.
I'm gonna go ahead and I tell the man that I will return as quickly as possible, and I'm going to go ahead and take the fish back to the cave and retrieve all of my medical gear and come right back here.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, Buttercup, before we jump to you in the stables, Bruce and Ashta are flirting down in the distant cave.
We're having a moment.
You are, and she's. I want to reiterate the thing about Bruce Fantana, who never wears a shirt, right? Is he's almost this sort of like semi-mythical figure in that at certain points when he's in like full flex mode, his body doesn't really look like a regular person's body anymore. It's like a weird like muscle machine. And Bruce, you've had these moments where you've been like flexing with Ashta. You can see she's curious. She doesn't seem to have any experience with humans, and so she's fascinated in general by like the definition of your body because it offers an interesting view of human anatomy.
That's fair.
And you guys are sort of like bonding, and you're you're dropping your Bruce Fantana flex game, and she's like kind of understanding about like some of it, a minor degree of it, but
Okay.
mostly misinterpreting what you're saying. When Victor shows up with a shitload of fish, and you can see before Victor even approaches, she sort of like perks up from a distance. And Victor, you're going to enter this cave about here.
Oh, what if she's bummed out about the fish? What if she's sad for the fish?
Cannibalism.
Oh no.
She's gotta eat.
She might be bummed out.
I would point out, Bruce, for the sake of what you're doing, at this point, like her affection level is like intrigued.
Ooh.
So Victor, what are you up to? You're walking into this cave. Bruce and Ashta are kind of just like chilling over in the pond, like kind of trying to communicate with one another. And Beatrice, as per usual, is hovering in the air, singing.
So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I am going to bring the fish closer to the water and make sure I show them to Ashta so that she can see what I brought. And I
She
kind
wants
of
that fish, dude.
what's that?
She wants that fish. In
Yeah,
fact,
I'll-
as soon as you like kind of hold it out and offer it to her, she is going to like snatch it and like eat the crap out of it. And she's going to love it because she's never had smoked fish before,
Nice.
and it's delicious.
Happy
I put
Ashta make all of us happy.
I put the rest of the smoked fish nearby so that it's within reach, and I go ahead and retrieve the rest of my medical gear that I had set out kind of earlier, and quickly go back upstairs to try and treat this man. I tell Bruce about this injured fisherman that I'm going to try and save his foot.
So Bruce acknowledges you and says, good luck, Doc. I know you can do it. I've got faith in you. You're a really good doctor.
And let me imagine you're flexing this entire time.
Yeah. Yeah, totally flexing. He also looks at Ashta and he's like, hey, can I get some of that fish? And like reaches his hand out for a little fish.
Yeah, she's gonna give you some fish.
Bruce eats the fish and says like,
He has made
pretty
friends
good
with
fish.
The Ashta.
The two of you guys eat smoked and dried fish together.
But before Victor leaves, Bruce looks over and says, do you need some help, Doc? Need me to hold him down?
I want to remind you guys there is still a massive serpent sitting over in Finnegan's bucket. Should you return?
Yes, there is. We'll have to go take care of that. We'll take care of the serpent at some point in the near future.
Yeah, you don't have to. I'm just reminding you that it's there.
Oh, I want to.
You guys start
I
itching
want it
for
dead.
Can you imagine the loot though? Like, come on now.
That sounds like an intriguing little hook.
Just saying.
Should we go take it out?
Not right now. Let me go see if I can at least begin treatment on this man's leg.
Okay. Might be a good
Gotta go
place
get
for us to
the
take a quick little break. Is that okay
Yeah.
with you guys?
Yeah, sure thing.
I'm down.
Okay.
I guess.
All right. We'll be back in just a moment, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Super appreciate it. We'll be back in like 5 or 10 minutes. Don't leave us. Bye. Okay, that was awesome, guys. Hour and a half. Fair enough. Okay, BRB.
Yep.
So yeah, we have been doing a shitload of RP. I'm totally cool with it.
I can craft ammunition fairly easily, right?
Eddie would probably be able. Actually, you would probably be the best. Eddie could probably produce the toolkit for you using. But since you're generally good at dexterity, you should be okay with the dexterity.
You know what? I think I would do it up to the Gandalf. Fly, you fuck.
Okay. We all good? So when Sam is like going after the spider who's going after Frodo, he would say fucking filth. Oh no. It's really aggressive EDM. It's drum and bass. It just covers up like the desktop audio. That's why I keep it so loud. It's pretty loud. So I gifted 5 subs today. You were one of them, so you don't have to worry about ads anymore. You could always watch it on Facebook. If you watch it on Facebook, there wouldn't be any ads at all. Yeah, on Switch, you just happen to be one of them. So, congratulations. All right, everyone ready? Let's do it. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Nordstead Point. We've had some interesting developments, and Hunter, why don't you take it away?
Welcome back, everybody. It's been a good, awesome RP heavy session so far. Right now, let's see what had just happened. Victor had come back with the fish for Ashta, and Victor, you're going to head out back into town. You guys were considering possibly going back to Finnegan's Bucket. Buttercup is currently checking in on Cecily. Bruce, are you remaining down here with Ashta while Victor
I'll go with
heads back into
Victor.
town?
I'm gonna go see if Victor needs some help.
Okay. No problem. So I'm going to bump you guys back over to the town map. Let's put you on here. There you are. Victor, I'll move you back down here. So Victor, you were going to do something about that pretty rotten looking foot. That's what your current intention
Yes,
was?
that's my plan.
Okay. And Bruce, you're just coming along to watch.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to skip over to Buttercup, who is currently at the stables for Chastain's Tavern. Let me go ahead and get this out of here. Buttercup, as soon as you enter the stables, you are going to see just the first stable right off the bat. Partially to like kind of reduce the smell, but also just for convenience. Is Cethaly Clifton's stall, which has apparently been raked out. They put some like fresh, hay in there to kind of clean it up a little bit. And there is a nicely set up like bed cot. Aside from it just being in a stall, it's not bad. You've certainly slept in worse conditions. And Cecily, looking ragged, kind of turns and she says, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you. Please, give me good news. How's my daughter?"
First thing Buttercup does is, she walks in and sees how she's set up, and she relaxes just a smidge. It still irritates her that she's in the stables. She goes over to Cecily with a smile, and she's all like, "Well, she has regained some of her color today, and I just wanted to let you know I'm checking on you, but may we please use your house? More of the people are falling ill in the town, much more than just Beatrice now."
And she says, "Is it safe? I mean, I suppose it's... I'm not staying in there right now."
She looks at Cecily. She's like, "I am so sorry about everything, but Beatrice is doing as well as she can be, and she is personally staying where I am located at. So she will always be under my care."
And she says, I'd like to come visit her, if I may."
She weighs that for a second.
She says, I need to be able to visit my daughter. She says, "I know the risks. But
does she?
can't wait." She's like, "I can't wait in these stables." She saw those things. She doesn't want to die, but at the same time, she can't just like never check in either. That's basically what she's telling you.
Which she completely understands. So she nods and she's like, "Okay. I can lead you there right now, if you would like. And I would have to leave you at the beginning of the cave while I go grab a torch, because we have them kind of set to the side, but don't have them on all the time because we don't have brackets for them yet."
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's no problem. So you're going to lead her back towards the cave, which means that the two of you are going to pass Bruce and Victor as they make their way up to the fisherman's camp. All right. So all of you guys are going to meet here in town, sort of bumping into one another as you cross ways.
Hey, what's up? We're gonna go look at this weird foot. You guys wanna come look at a weird foot?
Weird foot? What are you talking about?
There is a fisherman. One of the fishermen has a rather infected wound on his foot that I intend to see if I can take care of and treat. I would rather not have to remove the leg, but I'm going to do my very best to save it.
Victor might have to cut off a leg. Do you guys wanna come?
Buttercup, you want to see a leg get cut off?
She shakes her head. She's like, "I've seen too many of that in my life. If you need any poultice or salves from my stash, let me know. Cecily would like to go check on Beatrice." And she just gives them a look like, she doesn't know what else to do. There's Ashta's there, eating, while, Beatrice is floating in the air.
So you're giving them a like, "Hey guys, y'all want to help me out with this
Yes.
situation?" Look.
Hey, Felicity. Let's go look at this guy cut off this foot.
Roll me a persuasion check, Bruce, to stall.
That's a 5.
What is this? She says, maybe after I visit with my daughter, I want to make sure she's doing okay, Mr. Fantana. And you see she looks a little agitated at the fact that you called her Felicity. All right. Okay, so you guys are parting ways. In that
Yeah.
case, Victor, you wanna throw
Victor
anything?
is too focused on going to thinking about treating this person and their injury.
All right.
He kind of misses the social cue of help me out this with distracting because
Okay.
to him probably seeing to him the merlady is just kind of whatever. Victor has seen all kinds of creatures and at least this one isn't trying to kill him.
Okay, word. So the two of you guys are going to head up north to the Fisherman's Cove. Buttercup, I guess you're on your own. Neither of the guys helped you out.
Bruce tried in his own way.
So, oh, that's true. Yeah, Bruce did actually help out. So I guess you're on your own. So you're going to head down to the cave.
Yeah, and while she's walking, she gets silent for a second, and she has to make a choice right now because there's going to be no way to hide Ashta, and the fact that Ashta's singing is affecting Beatrice in the way that it is. So,
I will point out Ashta is singing on and off, but she is doing so fairly frequently.
exactly, and
Every
so
Or so.
part way to the cave, she has to make a choice, and so she decides to look at Cecily. She's like, I need to tell you some things and be honest with you when you go down into this cave. Are you okay with me telling you, or would you rather just see for yourself?
And at this, she sort of goes pale, and she says, "It's Beatrice, isn't it?" She says, "What's happened? Tell me."
No. And Buttercup immediately shakes her hands. She's like, no, it's not Beatrice. It's true that she has regained her color, but it's not from my doing. We went and explored Finnegan's Bucket, and we found someone, and she may be a little offsetting for you because of whom we dealt with in your house. But she is kind, and she is gentle, and she is helping.
She's just like, okay, like, she's just like, you found someone, I don't understand. Someone who's helping my daughter?
And Buttercup nods her head. She's like, I'm not quite sure how, but it's like her voice is soothing to Beatrice, and it's been a while since I've been here that I've seen Beatrice this comfortable. She's still kind of floating and singing, but she is nowhere near as pale as she was. But I wanted to prepare you before I just took you in there and showed you, so that way you had some time to, I guess you can say, brace yourself.
Okay, so Buttercup, roll me an insight check real quick. Let me see how good your read on Cecily's grasp of the situation is. Okay, pretty good.
That's
So
not bad.
looking at Cecily, Buttercup, she doesn't really understand what she's in for, but she's getting kind of anxious because she is worried about the well-being of her daughter. But you're also kind of telling her that her daughter is doing better, so she's like, okay, I'll brace myself. I guess there's someone helping my kid. But she's definitely concerned, and she says, okay, I'm ready, I suppose. She says, just let me see.
Not a problem. Be careful on the way down. Some of the rocks can be a little bit funny whenever you climb down the rope, but I'll be down there in case you fall, so that way I can catch you.
Okay, so you guide her down. Let me move you guys over to the cave real quick. These are both interesting situations. Let's go ahead and do this because we'll switch over to Bruce and Victor real quick before we continue with the cave. but Bruce and Victor, the two of you return. You knock on the door as usual. It's opened by the same like raggedy-looking old fisherman, Victor, with his leathery skin from being in the sun all the time. And this other guy is kind of just waiting at the table. And Bruce
Victor's gonna go ahead and approach and break out his healer's kit and just kind of look at the gentleman. I said, "Do you have any strong drink? This will not feel pleasant."
He's starting to answer your question like, "Hey, when you're like, hey, do you have anything to drink?" He's like, "Yes, I've got some." And then right as Bruce is stepping in, he's like, "Oh, by the three. Oh, why I know you. You're Bruce Fantana."
Hey, what's up?
He's like,
Heard you got
his thigh, you know.
heard you
He's
got a
just like,
weird
"Huh."
leg.
It's like, "Oh yes, stepped on a fish hook. Quite some trouble, this leg of mine." And looking at it, Bruce, it looks horrendous. It's purple, veiny, swollen. There's like seeping sores, like where, like the cloth or the leather of his boots has been like pressed up against his foot.
So, would you allow me to expend numerous charges of the healer's kit to make this easier / help with this?
All right. Let's see. You have made a quick diagnosis on it, just like looking at this thing. You'll have to roll me. You'll have to expend a charge of this toolkit to like do an in-depth assessment of this foot and figure out what exactly you can do for this foot. But remember that you have expertise in this. So what is that? Like a 7? 16?
Oh, sorry. Let me bump that. That be 16. Yeah, sorry.
16? Okay. So, looking at this foot, Victor, it is part of this foot has already rotted away and will not be able to be saved. And that will have to be like cleaned out so that it doesn't continue to infect the rest of the foot. If you're not going to amputate the leg, you're going to have to at least like remove parts of the foot to keep like something intact. He'll be missing like a few toes. He'll be missing like a chunk of like the ball of his foot.
Yeah.
And part of his heel. But you might
So
be able to
I'm-
make it work. It'll stop like seeping and causing him as much pain.
I'm
But it
gonna
won't-
go ahead and give him both options. Like, well, just I hate to tell you this, but because of the advanced stage of this infection, I have two choices really. I can go ahead and I can try and treat is what I can, but there are several parts of your foot that I just simply cannot save. They will have to be removed.
Any-
Or I can, and this will be more, we can take above the infected part so that you don't have to deal with the arduous recovery process of the infected tissue trying to heal.
As you're saying the second half of what you said, you can already see he's kind of like stopped, like listening, and he's reacting to you saying like your foot might have to be removed, you know?
Yeah.
He almost like doesn't hear it, even though he doesn't say anything to you like while you're like running through it. And then he just sort of says like, "Whoa, what do you mean you can't save it? You can't fix it, bring it back to normal?" He says, "You're a doctor, ain't you?"
I am a doctor, but I cannot bring dead parts back. He points to the parts that would be blackened and like obviously like if he touches it, he either would experience excruciating pain or there would be no sensation there, which is like
It isn't pleasant.
Yeah,
It absolutely
basically.
isn't pleasant.
He
says,
he
"Look."
tells him, he's like, no matter what, I will have to remove something from this, or you will die.
He says, "Look, I didn't ask you to cut anything off the damn thing. Can't you at least make it hurt less?"
That depends. How many more voyages would you like to take? How much more fishing would you like to do, sir?
And he says, like, well, I get along fine as it is. And he says, I'd like to fish until the end of my days.
Well, the end of your days will be much sooner if I don't do what I've already proposed. You
Roll
will
me a
have
persuasion check, Victor. So you try and convince this old codger to just fucking cooperate.
Off with his foot.
Just chop it off. Oh my god.
Oof.
He is outraged. He's like, I don't want to hear it. If you can't help me, then just don't worry about it. I'm fine with it as it is. And you can see he looks very frustrated. He says, Mr. Fontana, it was a pleasure to meet you.
Do you want me to rip your leg off? I'll do it. Just give me the word.
He says, I'd rather you didn't.
Okay. If you change your mind, let me know.
And he says, wait. Can I have an autograph? He sort of like
I wouldn't.
grabs a paper and a quill off the table and sort of like hobbles on like kind of one foot, holding the other leg, you know, out of its boot, kind of off the ground. But he,
After
like,
you
hobbles
insult one of his closest friends by telling him he doesn't know what he's speaking of, you expect Bruce Fantana to grace you with an autograph?
Listen, bud. That leg goes, I'll give you an autograph. That's the only way.
Oh God.
I came here to see something.
Victor, roll me a persuasion check at advantage since Bruce is actually helping you now. So this will be the second one. Nope.
What?
Why? Why?
Or you know, Bruce also can roll for it as well.
God.
Two. Oh, God. Okay. He says, damn. I really wanted that autograph, but I'm afraid I can't be letting go of my leg anytime soon. It's too much. I'd rather just leave it as it is.
Bruce is gonna get in this dude's face. He wants to get real close. He wants to look him dead in the eye.
God.
Hey, old man. That leg's going right now.
Bruce, roll me an intimidation check.
2.
God, we're all so bad at this. Our bedside manner is atrocious.
He must have seen a lot of shit.
And he's intimidated. Don't get me wrong. He's this old man. You're getting in his face. He's like, Mr. Fantani, I'm old. As the good doctor says, I'm nearing the end of my days. But he says I don't want to cut the damn thing off.
Bruce grabs his foot.
Oh
Oh.
my god! Roll me a grappling check, Bruce Fantani.
What is it, strength?
It's athletics.
Athletics. Okay.
Oh my
+3.
god.
Hey, he's pretty good at the grapple checks at least.
Jesus. You rolled a
That's
7.
a crit.
Oh my god!
Oh my god.
He just snatches his leg off.
It just comes off.
Okay, sure.
Crumbles underneath the weight of Bruce Fantana.
Roll me. What do you try? All right, tell me what happens here, Bruce. Just tell me what happens here.
So Bruce looks this guy in the eye, and so Bruce has had some weird interactions with this dude. He gave him the fish, but the thing that stood out to Bruce Fantana was He
It
didn't
wasn't
know.
this guy. It was this is like the roommate
Oh,
of
so it's a
the
different
guy
guy.
who gave you the fish. Yeah, but it is
Oh,
just
okay.
also like an old man, probably in like his late 70s, but he looks like he's 90 because of all the sun damage.
Bruce is intrigued because this is a very painful injury, and this guy seems to be doing pretty well with it, just kind of shrugging it off. And he's a little confused and slaps it just to like gauge the reaction and see if there's any kind of anything that might tip him off to any weirdness.
So you're just gonna slap it.
He's gonna slap it.
All right. Now he rolled a natural 20. Are you trying to like just probe it?
He wants to just kind of, I guess, grab it, shake it a little bit, like on the heel, just like
Okay, so Bruce, as you grab the heel, right? Because I did tell you part of the heel was like rotted away.
uh-huh.
As your fingers like sink into the sores, the flesh just caves like rotten fruit, you know. And your fingers kind of just like brush it aside, like push it aside. And this guy screams and howls in pain and immediately like stiffens up and sort of collapses like into a prone position as he like falls out of his chair. And you're like essentially like gripping his foot. It's gonna actually like your thumb is actually gonna cleave away like a good bit of this rot.
He's gonna look at Victor and say, "Do you have a saw?"
Victor goes ahead and breaks out the tools that he's gonna need to go ahead and perform the surgery, and because at this point, if he doesn't do it, the guy's gonna die like today.
Is he conscious?
He is conscious. He is spasming and like. So here's the thing: you rolled a natural 20 on what's essentially a grappling check because you said you want to grab his leg.
Yeah.
So he is going to immediately spasm, and I want to point out when your thumb like collapses that flesh, it immediately begins bleeding and becomes an open wound, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And while this guy is going to react, Bruce, you are going to essentially like grapple him in such a way that prevents him from moving. And like a very steady way, you very effectively like restrain this person. 20.
So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and yeah, while Bruce has him restrained, I look at his partner and say, and like I'm very like
His partner is like sort of stepping back like against the wall in shock, like eyes wide.
He's like, "Oh fuck!"
Like
I look
holy
at him
shit,
and I'm just
Alvin.
like reassuring him. I'm like, I will save your friend's life. I promise you.
This
And
guy
then
is
turn and get to work.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna get to work, and I'm at this point. I'm gonna amputate his leg.
Can Bruce try to choke him out? Can he like put his
Yeah.
hand around his neck and try to like put him to sleep?
Yes, you can.
And
Jesus.
Go
to
ahead.
sleep,
and
go to sleep, go to
roll me
sleep.
Another grappling check.
9.
9. Okay. Okay. All right. So you begin like actually choking this guy out. I want to say it takes like 6 seconds to pass out with an effective grappling check. So he's gonna make a Constitution save with an 8. Let me see. What's the DC? I'll give it 1 round. See, he'll pass out in about 6 seconds. Victor, you are at this moment beginning. you tell this guy like, "Hey, just don't worry," and then you're going to turn and start sawing this guy's leg off.
I'm going to apply a numbing agent as best I can around the top part where the infection is, and yeah, I'm gonna have to amputate.
Okay, so you're taking like an anesthetic basically, and you just
Yes.
produce it and just like syringe it into his leg. And
Yeah.
as you're doing this, his eyes are wide. This old man who's like screaming in horror, you know, as as Bruce Fantana just like restrains him, and you begin sawing his leg off against his will. He is
I'm
going-
saving this guy, damn it. I'm saving
He is
his life.
going
And
to
I'm gonna give him a
pass out.
dope ass cool leg.
He's screaming like as you get about like halfway into his leg with the saw, and then like the screaming abruptly stops as he goes limp and just like passes out, and his head kind of just collapses, knocking on the wooden floor. This other old man, the fisherman, like sort of like sinks to his knees like in the corner as he's like watching you like saw this leg off as Bruce holds this guy in place. And he's having like this holy shit, is this even real moment, like watching this happen. But Victor, let me see, did I go ahead and roll me healer's kit tool check, an expended charge to effectively cut this leg off and like secure the amputee.
Does he get advantage because Bruce is helping?
Well, you're restraining it. You're basically enabling him to do it, but it doesn't matter because he basically aced it.
Worth a
So,
shot.
so Victor, let me see. There would be a fireplace in here, but unfortunately I don't have it here. But anyways, Victor, knowing that you're going to amputate this leg, you make the decision, right? You go and you start a fire in the fireplace, and you set a cast iron skillet on the fire.
Oof.
And as you are sawing away at this leg and this old man passes out, it suddenly becomes much easier. You get to the bone and like taking like a chisel, because you're using pretty crude methods. You sort of like saw into it a little bit and then take the chisel and just sort of like crack it. You know, get through there.
Yeah.
Actually, no, you would just saw all the way through the bone. What am I saying? You saw all the way through. It's a little tougher when you get to the bone, but you managed to like get through there. And then you saw the rest of the leg off. But once you get done with that, you are going to try and control this bleeding. You kind of like, of course, tighten up the leg. And you get your skillet, you get it nice and hot. Bruce, you're sort of like watching with fascination as Victor is doing this. And Victor, setting this cast iron skillet, you sort of pick it up off the flames and you press it into this leg and you cauterize the wound. And about halfway through, this old man sort of like wakes up again, and his like eyes are wide. He's kind of in shock. He doesn't like really like look. He looks and sees what you're doing. He doesn't feel it as much anymore because that anesthetic's kind of kicking in. But he's just like, whoa, what are you? And he's like starts hyperventilating a little bit.
Bruce says, "You're welcome."
I apply a healing salve to it. Also, so I use one of my first level cure wound spells on it as well to completely
God.
like heal it up and make sure he's good.
Okay. All right. So you apply your healing spell potion, and it very effectively like eliminates his pain, cleans it up. It's going to heal nicely, especially like given this sort of treatment that you prepared for it. But this old guy is like exhausted. His body is in shock. You're gonna have to just like stick him in bed.
I do that, and I'm going to make him a really nice prosthetic leg.
Okay.
Bruce
Something.
looks. Sorry, Bruce looks over at the guy in the corner and he's like, "Hey, you gonna clean that up?" And motions over to the leg.
Oh, God.
I take care of
Blood
it. I'm
all
not gonna
over
make
the
this
floor.
guy do it.
There's blood.
I take care of it.
How do you take care of it, Victor? There's blood all over the floor. In fact, let
Me
me
without prestidigitation. Uh, well, I don't know if I would have hydrogen peroxide to try and clean up all some of the blood off the floor.
Roll me alchemist tools to see if you're able to produce something for this. Okay. So, Bruce, you watch as Victor kind of like assesses all this blood on the floor. And Victor's dealt with this situation before, plenty of times in his past. And with a sort of calmness, he like looks at the blood all around him and like reaches into a pouch at his belt and pulls out like kind of a yellow, like crystally salt. And he like sprinkles it on the ground all over the place. And as the salt hits the blood sort of like clumps up into like this little like clumps of like I want to say it looks like chunky snow almost, but it like solidifies. And Victor, you're able to easily just take a broom and like sweep out this like solidified fluid, eliminating the stain pretty easily. Or not stain, but the liquid rather.
Yeah, nice.
Okay.
I go to his friend and I give him a few doses of the anesthetic, and I was like, give this to him as he needs it. I will return with something to help him be more mobile. I plan on making him another foot that will be rather nice.
So what do you guys do with the foot?
I take
you
it
have a
out.
foot about halfway up the calf. I guess
Yeah.
if you're going to amputate this leg, you're probably going to amputate it at the knee. So I'd say you have a shin. Damn, I guess I would have narrated it differently, but you would have amputated this leg at the knee essentially. And
Yeah.
so you have a shin and a rotted foot. If you need that.
I mean,
Put that in your inventory.
Yeah, put that
I
in your-
am going to
Write that
dispose
down.
of this. Probably, most definitely, this needs to be
Throw it
gotten rid. Like,
Throw it in the
oh,
fire.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know what to do, like to reverently dispose of this foot in like a respectful way. Honestly,
You
'cause
just
there's
toss
not-
it off the cliff behind the house, behind the
just
camp.
huck it in the ocean.
Yeah, just toss it into the ocean. I mean, it's an option. You don't have to, of course. You could do
Crabs
something
will eat it.
with it if you want to like craft with it somehow.
I mean, I could use some of his own bone to make
Not all of the foot is rotted. There,
I know,
it-
yeah.
For the majority, it is, but there is still some tissue that was like fresh, living tissue up until recently.
Yeah. I'm going to so would I be able to use some of that bone to actually craft him some kind of like new artificial limb?
Of his own bones, yeah. I mean, if
Yeah.
you wanna cut away all the meat and like use the bones as crafting components, yeah.
I'm going to use an acid bath because I don't have time for that.
Okay. So
Acid
go
bath
ahead.
on the flesh and use an acid bath to clean the flesh from the bone
Okay,
and get rid of the dead
that'll be a
parts.
separate thing because you're in this guy's house right now. But
Yeah, we'll do that in the cave.
for the time being, go ahead and add a rotted leg to your inventory.
So seeing this, Bruce says, "Hey Doc, it's pretty weird. You're just gonna keep that foot."
Bruce, you watch as Victor like picks the leg up off the floor and like kind of like looks around and puts it into his bag.
You sure about that?
I plan to use as much of his own bone as I can to make him a device, a device for mobility,
Fair enough.
so that he has his own leg back, in a sense.
Okay.
Call me poetic if you must, but that seems I'm just trying to help this poor man out.
Cool, because for a second there, I was worried you were just gonna like keep his foot. So I'm glad you have like a plan.
Yes, I don't just keep severed limbs.
Hey,
It's
I don't
disgusting.
know, man. I just met you.
And then I think
Fair
about the large crab claws that we have, and then
Yeah, fair enough. He did
and
walk
Bruce
like-
Fantana's bat wings.
All right. So that process actually didn't end up taking super long. You guys probably did the whole thing in about 20 minutes, with the cleanup really taking longer than the actual amputation process. So while that is occurring, we're going to skip back over to the distant cave where Buttercup and Cecily Clifton are entering the cave. Let's bring Buttercup over here.
Dun dun dun.
Okay. So there is that sort of like ethereal singing that's happening throughout the cave. Ashta is not currently singing, but Cecily, like, hearing the singing reverberating throughout the cave, is going to kind of peer into the darkness. Just be like, she's in here somewhere?
Yes, give me a moment. And with that, she reaches down and grabs a torch and lights it, so that way Cecily can see in front of her. And she's like, just follow me this way. Again, you're going to see something that is not what you expect, but I promise. She means no harm. And just walk over to the pool where Beatrice is.
Okay. So she's just like, huh, what the fuck? Okay. And she's going to follow you. But as you lead her over here, let's get Bruce out of here. As you lead her over to the pool, and she sees Ashta, right, who is going to sort of like curiously like swim over to you guys, or like move through the water rather. Cecily is going to shriek and sort of like take a step back, and she's just like, ah, what is that?
After the shriek, Buttercup kind of like, runs a finger in her ear. She's like, ow. She's like, I understand you're startled, but Cecily, this is Ashta. Ashta has been helping with Beatrice. She has been helping her regain more color and be comfortable.
Okay. She sort of like looks at it and looks back at you, and she's like, how? Is it friendly?
She smiles at this and nods. Yes, she's very friendly, and she sings to Beatrice. And Beatrice seems to be calmed by it. And so she walks over to Ashta, like in between Ashta and Cecily, and puts her hand on Cecily's chest and says Cecily for her name, right?
Right.
And then touches her Cecily's chest again and points to Beatrice and says mother, like indicating that she is the child's mother.
Roll me persuasion to get this one across. Ashta understands the greeting.
Nice.
Okay. So she sort of recognizes the similarity in appearance between these two and kind of makes a connection. And she sort of like nods in understanding, but she's not really able to communicate too much more. Cecily is trying to get over her shock, and she sort of turns to you, Buttercup, and she says, you say it sings?
She does, quite beautifully, actually. And while she's in the middle of explaining that to Cecily, she walks over to Beatrice and very gently pulls her into her arms and then takes her over to Cecily. So Cecily can see that she has regained, that Beatrice has regained some of her coloring. And She smiles at Asha. This is and then looks at Cecily. She's a friend of mine. We met not too long ago, but she has already shared so much with me.
Okay, Ashta doesn't understand any of that, but she definitely sees that there is a connection between Beatrice and Cecily here. Or wait, you're saying this to Cecily, or you're saying this to Ashta?
Yes. She's saying that to Cecily, not Asha. And Asha,
Okay, gotcha.
what she does is, for one, Buttercup can't sing worth a damn, but she looks at Asha and like she kind Buttercup pats at her own throat and like tries to sing a couple of notes and then points to Asha so that way Cecily can see how Beatrice is affected.
Okay. Okay. Ashta is going to understand that. And she sort of straightens up, which for her kind of means like lifting herself up back on her fin. And she is going to begin singing. And as this singing sort of begins like filling the air, it's going to sort of just like light her form up with a sort of bioluminescent like light. And Cecily is going to sort of like raise a hand to her mouth, which drops open in response. And she's able to see like right away that there's some sort of like magical interaction happening here. And she's able to tell pretty clearly that Beatrice is looking better. Like, as you pointed out, look, she's not as pale. A lot of the veins in her neck have kind of receded. And she says she's essentially convinced by this. She says, "This is incredible." She says, "What is it? How did you meet this thing?"
Let's just say luck had a hand in it. And she smiles and kind of like chuckles at it. But she brushes, Beatrice's hair away from her face and then passes her over to Cecily. So that Cecily, could spend some time with her daughter. And then continue speaking. I'm trying everything I can. I found this cave moss. Maybe I'll be able to give her some, and it will help her heal. Astra has been fantastic, but I don't think Astra has anybody else.
Okay. Cecily is kind of in shock at seeing this like humanoid creature, which is apparently singing to her daughter, who has undeniably begun looking better. Down here in this cave with these like random visitors who showed up from town. She's no longer living in her house. She's in the stables. She's not super sure how she feels about all of this situation. But she knows that in this moment, she is happy that her daughter seems to be looking better. And Buttercup, you can see that even if she's having difficulty coming to terms with everything that's happening right now, and especially given there is a constant like kind of rain that continues around all of you guys in the presence of Beatrice here. And it's probably going out like about like a good 10 feet or so, from emanating from Beatrice. So probably about this far. There's just like a constant cloud of like a gentle saltwater rain.
Okay.
Dripping upwards towards the ceiling. But she's reassured by this, and she's going to tell you, I've basically just put my complete trust in you. You had asked if you could use the house upstairs to treat others in this town. And she says, if there are others and they could end up like her and there's something we can do to stop this, she says, I'm willing to do what I can. I'll
Buttercup
continue to stay in the
looks,
stables.
yeah. Um, Buttercup immediately looks relieved. She's like, "Thank you. I really appreciate that." Um, and then she smiles. She's like, I do have a cot here. If you don't want to, stay in the stables and you want to spend some time here with Beatrice, you're more than welcome to use my cot anytime you want to. I'm here. I'm going to be making potions. I've checked on her. Vitals are good and strong. And I'm going to continue to do what I can from here. And Victor, the good doctor, has also been doing what he can as well.
Yes, at this offer, she is going to say, like, is that okay? Like, is it okay if I stay here? Like, she would much rather stay here than in the stables, which, quite frankly, don't smell good. Uh, and at least here she can be close to her daughter, and she is still kind of like eyeballing Ashta, like not sure what the hell that thing is, that like fish person looking creature. Let me just show you guys one more time.
She's a 10.
She's a 10 out of 10.
But
It does bring her a lot of comfort to be close to her. She's asking if it's cool if she does take you up on that offer and crash here.
and
I'll help out however.
Buttercup's yeah, Buttercup, of course, like, yeah, definitely, for sure. Hopefully some provisions will be arriving soon. I can see that some fish has already arrived. Ashton needed to eat. She didn't have much anything. So I'm pretty sure she has eaten. And I'm wondering what Victor and Bruce are up to, but they'll be along shortly. And she actually starts like removing some of her vials and stuff like that, and then passes one of the ones that one of the vials of healing potion she had made from the moss, and passes it to Cecily, and she's like, "Here, why don't you? Since Astra is singing at the moment, why don't you try to see if we can get some of this into Beatrice and see if it helps her?"
Okay. Okay. All right. So you are essentially setting her up down here. She's offered to help you out. Is there anything you would like her to do while she's down here? Like basically staying in the cave with you guys?
Help with cooking, because she lucked out. The Buttercup lucked out that one time, but otherwise than that, it's just more of um, somebody else that could also keep an eye on Beatrice right now too. And I mean, uh, that's pretty much it.
All right. So you now have an NPC staying with you in your home base. Feel free to give her assignments or give her a project if you'd like her to work on something within her capabilities.
Make her earn her keep.
That's right.
Give her shit to
Alright.
do. Chores.
Flashback.
Cecily,
The
take
boy
out the
upstairs.
trash.
Peel potatoes, Cecily. All right, we're gonna bounce back to Bruce and Victor, who have just removed a severed leg from this poor old fisherman who is in shock.
Good. You're welcome.
And Victor has taken the leg and cleaned up the blood, which clumped up with an odd substance he produced. What would the two of you gentlemen like to do now? This old guy in the corner is intimidated by both of you. He's not comfortable with your presence here.
I'm not gonna hurt you. It's okay.
I look at him and it's like, I apologize for what needed to be done, or your friend would have passed within weeks if we had left it alone. We did not mean any harm. My intent is always for the betterment of anyone's lives.
Bruce looks him up and down and says, "You got any infections?"
Mr. Fantana,
Like,
leave this poor man alone.
It's Bruce.
It's
Call
like,
me
no.
Bruce.
No, son, I'm perfectly healthy. Been healthy all my life.
You better be. And then Bruce just walks out, I guess.
Roll me, Victor. Roll me an insight check. Bruce, you can roll me an insight check too if you like.
God, these guys are terrified of
Oh
us.
my
It's
god.
funny too.
Bruce,
Bruce knows.
he's lying. There's a pause. And he's like, "No, I've been healthy all my life. No infections here."
Bruce
But
go.
you could just tell there's something about him. He's just like
Ooh.
took too long to respond.
Ooh, Bruce goes over there knowing there's like a little glint in his eye that he doesn't like, and he goes over there and looks him. It's like square in the face, like it's real close. Bruce Fantana, show me. Where is it?
Roll me an intimidation check to get him to fess up.
Can he do?
Did
He sounds like Batman.
Wha-
Where is he?
Where is he?
God. Okay. Like this guy starts like he's intimidated. He's like kind of like cowering in this corner. He's recoiled a little bit, you know, as Bruce is getting in his face. He says, I've just got a couple bad teeth. Please, I don't want any trouble. It doesn't bother me, really."
He looks over Victor and says, "Should we amputate his head?"
Mr. Fantana, that's a tad extreme.
It's Bruce.
He actually does. Like he approaches cautiously and. Would you mind if I take a look? I will not touch you if you don't want me to at this point. Bad teeth will not end your life. They are something you can live with, although with pain. I have things for pain if that's what you would like.
Please, just I'm okay, really. It's
Show him.
says, I'll show you, but I don't wish for any treatment. And he kind of looks over at the other guy. Did y'all bring that other guy to his bed, or is he still like?
Yes, I put
Victor
him in his
did,
bed.
yeah.
Yeah, I put him in his bed.
Okay. He's like, I'll show you, but I really don't want any of your treatment.
Amputate
And
his
he
teeth.
opens his mouth, Victor and Bruce, and the two of you guys see he has, like on the side of his teeth, like some of his molars are like very degraded and yellow, and there's a good amount of plaque buildup, you know, where they've kind of rotted away a little bit.
I'm not proficient in dentistry.
It's like, I don't want any trouble. Just like leave me alone.
Victor just pulls out a vial of basically like antiseptic that and passes it to the man. It's like, just swish this around your mouth once a day in the evening before you go to sleep. And if you feel any pain, he pulls out another vial of a minor anesthetic and passes it to him as well. If you feel pain, apply this directly to the area. That's it.
Okay, Victor, as you're dishing out these medical supplies, especially after the ones you used to amputate that leg, you're gonna start running low on medical supplies. Go ahead and take another notch off your healer's kit as you're like
Okay.
dishing this out to this guy.
Bruce looks at him and says,
But he's just like, thank you, doctor.
Bruce looks at him and says, "Be sure to drink your milk. Stay in school."
I will return with a prosthetic for your friend so that he can get around just as well as he would otherwise.
Yes, I'm quite sure he'll be delighted.
Victor kind of smiles grimly at that and says, I don't believe he'll be delighted to see me anytime soon.
No, I don't
Trying to diffuse a little bit, just like he knows what they did was messed up, but the guy would have died. Like,
This guy is still
really-
uncomfortable and afraid of both of you.
Okay.
What's your name? Tell me your name.
My name is Martin.
Martin. It's a good
Yes.
name.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fantana.
It's Bruce. Call me
I
Bruce.
tr-
Thank you, Mr. Bruce.
can I try and like reassure this guy, like I guess persuasion check that
got it.
I'm really not like I'm really just
Look,
looking out for everyone's best
look.
interest.
You have already told him.
You're right.
Whatever you tell this guy right now will not make him unsee that you guys forcibly
I know.
amputated his leg in front of him. But it was interesting.
Gotta get the hawk.
I know.
Are y'all going? Okay, so do you want anything else from poor Martin here, who like
No,
really
we're
wants you
gonna
both to
leave
leave?
him alone.
I think Bruce is gonna look at Martin and say, "What did you see here, Martin? What did you see today?"
roll me intimidation check at advantage. I just want to see.
Wow, double
Wow.
nines. Double nines.
That's been happening a lot tonight.
One in 400 chance, double nines.
He's like, I just saw the good doctor give you medical care.
That's right. Goddamn right, that's what you saw.
Mr. Fantana, let us leave
Bruce.
this poor man alone.
It's Bruce. Let's go.
Old man Martin watches you guys like walk out the door, and Victor, as the door closes behind you, you hear a small click.
Not that I blame him at all.
God, what the fuck, you guys? Okay, all right. So
Hey, I saved that guy's life, and he's not grateful. It's fine. Medicine is a thankless job.
he's not
What did you
grateful,
see?
It's fine. You don't have to be grateful. I did the right thing. All right.
What did you
Buttercup,
see?
Did you see? What did you see? Mr. Fantana.
That's pretty good.
Buttercup, did you say you were going back upstairs after all that was dealt with?
No, she's currently laying out some of the things that she has, and is working on making more health potions after handing one to Cecily to try to get Beatrice to take.
Okay, all right. Okay, go ahead and roll me an herbalism kit to sort of like prepare some of this moss, because you still have a lot of unprepared moss. Now, Bruce and Victor, what are you guys doing?
I think I'll look over at Victor and say, "Pretty good job, man. Way to cut through that leg. You saved that guy's life, man." It's not the first time I've seen you save a life. You saved mine once. Sorry
I
for
only
what?
do what's necessary for the good of all.
Okay. So it's a roll d20 plus medicine for herbalist kit?
So for herbalism kit, it is, I believe, wisdom or intelligence, the higher of either, plus your proficiency bonus because you're proficient in herbalism kits. Wow. Okay.
I think if she's using your wisdom, that'd be another +2.
Be another
That's
plus two.
with the added proficiency.
Okay. Well, that is good enough. Go ahead and add a health potion.
Does Victor just have a rotting foot in his bag?
Yeah.
I forgot her wisdom. Her dex is 20, not her wisdom. My bad.
Yeah, so tick off one of those mosses and just add a health potion. Now, Bruce and Victor, you guys are patting yourselves on the back up here for forcibly saving that man's life.
No, I'm gonna go ahead and try and go back to the cave as quickly as I can, so I can,
All right.
like, I want to go ahead and get this prosthetic limb made for this guy here and leave it outside his door so that they can take it on their own.
It's a hell of a gift.
Alrighty, y'all. So here you are, back in the cave. Victor and Bruce. The two of you guys, as you return, notice pretty quickly that Cecily Clifton is here as well.
Hey, hey,
And,
Cecily, what's up?
As you say this, she's like, "Mr. Fantana," she says, I'm surprised to hear you call me that. You called me Felicity earlier." She says, we've just been busy. I've been trying to get used to the circumstances here." And she says this kind of looking over to Ashta.
Yes. Well, you seem to be taking it better than most anyone else would, but she is doing everything she can to help your daughter, as are we.
Well, I mean, you say that. Looking at Cecily, she is exhausted. She looks extremely sleep deprived. She's been sleeping in rain for like the past, few days.
I lead her over to that one bed that's in the darker offshoot of the cave over here, and I was like, you may take this bed, just rest as long as you need.
She's like, "Yes, thank you. Buttercup's offered me a bed here as well." She says, I think I will take you guys up on that. And she says, "If there's anything I can do for you, just let me know. I just want to be near my daughter."
Bruce winks at the merlady.
The merlady. The merlady
I'm
is
back, don't worry.
fascinated by this action and attempts to imitate it, but cannot.
What does she do instead?
She probably just
Trip?
blinks the dictating lids.
It's yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's trying, but she's got like double eyelids, right? So they
She's
get about
blinks.
halfway closed, and they're kind of like straining, and then the other ones kind of like twitch about halfway, So her eyelids are kind of like twitching erratically, but she's not able to imitate it.
Much to her own chagrin.
So yes, what would y'all like to do down here in the cave?
I'm gonna go ahead and get to work on making this prosthetic leg right now. Acid bath to get rid of the dead flesh and what the flesh is left, and then start crafting the bone into like something that could be workable for the man.
Okay.
I think Bruce wants to check out that wall.
Okay.
The one with the
You're gonna
moss.
examine
Yeah.
it. All right. Are y'all just gonna spend the remainder of the day kind of recovering from everything?
Yes.
that y'all went through?
Yes, at this point, I believe.
Yes.
Alright. Victor, you are crafting. Buttercup, what are you doing for the evening? Would y'all like to do anything with your long rest? Work on a project or anything like that? You're all welcome to do so.
Could
Buttercup is crafting more arrows.
Arrows? Okay.
climbing gear.
so I think Bruce is gonna try to do mushrooms with the merlady.
You're just trying.
Oh my god.
I think he's gonna be like, "Hey, look," and like, I think he's gonna like point to the mushrooms, and then touch one, and then try to get her to touch one and see if she trips out with him.
Okay.
What do I roll?
Alright, so there's actually some mushrooms right here at the edge of the pool, which is perfect for this, right? So they're sitting right here. So Bruce, as you reach down and pluck these mushrooms, right? They're gonna like kind of, some of them are gonna kind of burst onto your hand, and shoot some spores out into the air as you pick them up and hand them to her. Can you roll me a Constitution save?
Yes.
And unsuspecting, she is going to accept them from you. Roll an 18 on her con save. As the mushroom like.
Oh,
swirls.
how cute! We both rolled 18s. Oh, what a cute date.
Oh. The both of you guys are actually too tough for these mushrooms, but you're both kind of taken aback and like stunned and she kind of like shakes her head a little bit. So you're not tripping, you're not like walking all over the place, but it's like at the edges of your vision, and you're both just like, whoa, what the fuck was that?
So we're microdosing?
You're microdosing. It's gonna hit you briefly and then pass.
Okay.
But it like you're both kind of just like, whoa,
Alright.
just for a moment.
Then we listen to Dave Matthews.
Yeah. Buttercup, you said you were working on what? I'm sorry?
Crafting arrows.
Crafting arrows. Yeah, go ahead and roll a dexterity check without proficiency because Victor is able to make you woodcarver's tools using his any tool for the job ability. And Victor, what are you working on this evening? What?
Well, if I've already worked on the prosthetic leg, then I would like to make climbing gear.
Okay. Go ahead and roll for that prosthetic leg. Let's see. Go ahead and roll me a tinkering tools check. The acid bath will be easy enough, as will preserving the bones, given the work you usually do. Go ahead and make me a tinker's tools check for that. And you will also be able to assemble the shark tooth necklace for Bruce Fantana that he'd requested. Oof. Damn.
Nice.
Okay.
I made a leg.
Yes. So with this, on crafting checks, I generally treat a natural 20 as 2 successes. So you are actually able to prepare the bones, get them all like set up, and then bind them together and sort in such a way that it actually does create like a stable walking mechanism. And you're easily enough able to make this for like an amputee. So you make a prosthetic out of this guy's own bones that are like reinforced with the material from your supplies. And in addition to that, you make an iron eye tooth necklace. And you can give that to Bruce whenever you like.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give Bruce his tooth necklace that I promised him.
What is this? What is this?
A trophy for your victory over Iron Eye.
Who's Iron Eye?
Do you
The
remember
shark.
that shark you punched several times?
Oh, Iron Smile. Thank you. And he takes the necklace and wears it proudly.
Yeah, I think it's like 30 shark teeth if you guys used all the shark teeth for that one.
He had a hell of a roll.
Yeah, I think I said you only needed 10 shark teeth for the necklace. So if you only want to use 10, that's fine. But that's essentially what you're looking at.
Oh, we can all have necklaces.
So Bruce, while
We can all
you're-
have matching necklaces.
while you're wearing this necklace, Bruce, once per short rest, you may have advantage on an intimidation check.
Okay. Should I intimidate the mermaid? Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Rude.
If you want to, you
I
certainly
don't.
have to.
No.
Okay,
She's my friend.
Okay, cool. So the day is going to pass. Buttercup,
See,
at some point in the evening, you are like here amongst everybody else. And you're in the pond, or not pond rather, but in this water, and you're kind of like washing your hands.
Mhm.
When all of a sudden, you like blink, and this cave that you're in is suddenly gone, and you're standing like out in a pool of water in the middle of the woods somewhere.
Oh
And
shit.
this pond that you're currently in is perfectly still. There's not a single ripple. You don't hear any birds. You don't hear any insects. It's perfectly still and silent. And there's this thick mist that sort of like rests upon like the woods here. And your reflection like quietly sits in the water beneath you.
of course she's startled by that, and she again takes another sharp breath in, but what she ends up doing is trying to move forward to see if there's anything else to see.
Okay. So you sort of like take a breath in, and as you do, you're like, It kind of like echoes, sort of ethereally. And as you take a step forward, there's like a ripple in the water. And this one ripple just sort of like slowly spreads out and out and out. And then it kind of fades. And before you take your next step, you see this like large reflection in the water that's sort of like moving towards you through the water as it sort of shuffles into place. And you see the reflection of this large bird-like creature in the water. And looking up at the tree before you, there's nothing there, but you see like the reflection clearly of this large creature. And the creature sort of turns like this sharp red golden eye at you and stretches its wings out wide, its reflection sort of growing wider and wider. And you blink suddenly, and everything is slightly different. The fog that fills the air around you has a sort of like yellowy haze to it, and the trees are like different than they were. They're sort of like an off color. And looking down at your reflection, you see your reflection is actually gone now. And this large bird creature sort of like cackles to itself. It says,
Ah, well, this is a surprise. I thought I smelled sleeping magics, but it looks like it's one of you.
and it sort of like turns and like gazes down at you.
It says, what have you stumbled into?
She meeps very quietly. She's startled when it starts talking. But then she starts like muttering to herself. She's like, why should this surprise me? There was giant crabs, and then now there's like a fish lady in my cave, and like there's this sickness. Okay. She looks up at him. She's like, I have no clue.
This enormous creature sort of like lowers down and looks at you. And you see now that its beak is itself like about the tip of its beak, which is like curved and hooked, could easily just like snap you in half. And it sort of assesses you with its eye.
It says, that thing around your neck. Show it to me.
Her hand instinctively, goes towards, where the necklace is, and she's all like, well, I'll show it to you, but I'm not going to give it to you. And so she kind of, pulls it out from under her shirt and, lays it there. And she's not afraid of the beak, she dies, she's going to die. That's just how she was raised. But she is also showing that she is trying to be as respectful as possible towards this bird, and but is not scared at the same time.
Okay. It sort of like twitters to itself and like kind of cackles with amusement as you like be as brave as you can, and you pull this necklace out, and upon seeing it, its feathers kind of bristle as it sort of like recoils upright.
It says, he says, well, I thought I'd stomped out those rodents long ago. But here we are. What a surprise. I've kept my eye on this village for some time, and I smell trouble stirring. Is this your doing?
She shakes her head. No, I'm a new arrival. I arrived there just a couple of days ago. Stomped out these people. Are you talking about the fish people, or are you talking about the humans?
And she says, ah, yes, the fish people. Tell me, you've seen them lately, have you? I smell their scent upon this village, and I've not for quite some time.
And she sees no reason to lie to this thing. So she's like, yeah, I have seen them, but the main reason I went to the village is there's this weird sickness, and people are sweating profusely, and one of the afflicted now is floating and singing, and it's like water, salt water's coming up from the ground, and I don't know what it means, but I'm supposed to try to heal them.
As you say this, it's sort of like twitches its head about and spreads its wings again wide, and just it makes this like frustrated, like sort of like cawing sound into the air, and it says, "Ah, those filthy fish and their wretched singing." She says, "Oh yes, I know them well." And she says, "This sickness, I could perhaps," and it sort of pauses for a second before this large creature. She sort of bends her head down low again and assesses you, and you see this like golden eye sort of like glance you up and down. And she says, "Yes, perhaps I could offer you a bargain. I have something that could alleviate this little sickness, but in return, I ask an oath of you. Bring your finest to my mountain, and I will give you a means to travel under the sea. I want you to find those singing fish folk and wipe them away once and for all. In return, I'll alleviate this sickness and make your problems go away."
Buttercup looks up at the bird, and she's contemplating because she does, she wants to get the people taken care of. But can I roll some insight to see, so she can see for any deception or anything like that?
Yeah, go ahead, roll insight. Oof, okay. Buttercup, this bird is not on the level. It is offering to make a bargain with you, but you don't sense that it's wanting to help you out of any sense of trying to do good.
Good job, Buttercup. Good
It
question.
seems to be trying to get rid of those merfolk.
Good question.
She pauses for a second, and then, actually, she sits down, kind of crosses her legs.
Let me say this. It's not trying to trick you, but it is definitely coming from a place that is not good. It is not trying to benefit you. It is trying to pursue its own goals.
So she sits down, crosses her leg, kind of leans back on one hand while looking up at the bird, clearly seeing that, it's not being completely honest, whereas she has. And she hums for a second. She's like, perhaps. But what is your issue with these folks? As she follows what the bird has been saying.
At this, it's going to sort of like spread its wings wide again and sort of like laugh and cackle. It says, "Oh, well, you're a clever one, aren't you? Yes, well, you could say, stole a certain something from them. They had something I coveted, and I took it."
Well, that was not nice, but please continue your story. I would like to hear some more.
And the great bird like lifts its head again and sort of cocks an eye at you, and it says, "My business is my own. If you seek to travel beneath the sea, bring to me a gift, something precious to someone, or I'll take one of your limbs, your choice, in exchange for this blessing."
and the cure.
Buttercup thinks about it for a second. She hums once again. She stands up and brushes her, hands against her legs, like brushing off whatever, invisible dirt and stuff is there. She's like, well, for one, when do I need to give this decision to you? And for another, yeah, going under the sea sounds cool and everything like that, and a cure. But how is this going to benefit me?
At this, the great bird sort of like cackles and twitters to itself.
And it says, "Oh, I like you. Perhaps we're not so different after all. I'll tell you this much."
And it sort of lowers its head to you. Its huge, like, red gold eye sort of looking you up and down.
It says, "Take all the time you need. I've got all the time in the world."
And it sort of like raises its arms once again and like cackles into the air. And it stretches wide and then screeches. And as it screeches, the pond water sort of like recoils from it as if it just wants to get away from this bird. And this bird like caws loudly, and then all of a sudden you're like and you like sort of like snap out of a trance here at the distant cave. And Bruce and Victor, all of you sort of just like kind of casually look up as Buttercup, who's sort of just like kneeling over this water here at the edge, and just kind of staring into the water, suddenly like gasps. Cecily's gonna kind of come over to you, Buttercup, and she says like, are you okay? Everything all right?
Buttercup shakes her head, trying to clear her head from the vision. She's like, "Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more tired than I realized." Definitely trying to hide up the fact that she was just talked to by this ginormous bird of like trickery. Because, who would believe her?
Right. Okay. Okay. So this would have happened like later on in the evening. And you guys are basically all retiring for the night?
Yeah.
Well, other than Buttercup, she's got a lot to think about. But yeah.
Yeah, so set yourselves up. Where's everybody sleeping for tonight?
I think Bruce
Buttercup is going to park it on the floor so that Cecily can have the bed.
Bruce is gonna sleep by the pond.
His
Okay.
lady love.
Cecily's gonna be back here in the corner.
Well, if you ain't taking your bed, Buttercup's gonna take it. It's a bed.
Before I go to bed, I would like to set up the alarm spell on the door to the cave.
Okay.
It'll take some time, but that's something I would like to do before sleeping.
Oh yeah, and then Buttercup takes out the 2 serpent eggs and like tries to make like a little nest for them, and just, she's like kind of like, eh. Not really knowing what she's doing, but hey, there's 2 eggs. And she's keeping them kind of like close to the bed. She doesn't know if they need warmth or anything like that, but it is what it is.
Okay.
And I will say that it only takes a minute to cast the spell, but I'm going to set it to the mental ping so that if something enters the door, it will wake me up.
Okay. And what creatures are you designating that won't set off the alarm?
Basically everyone in this room, Ashta, Buttercup, Cecily, and Bruce, and
Beatrice.
Beatrice, thank you, Floaty Girl.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. All right. So you all go to bed. Bruce, as you are sleeping that night, at some point in the night, you are going to become vaguely aware of a singing.
Is it
And that's-
Asha?
It's not. It's something you sort of become aware of like while you're asleep.
Okay.
And you're sort of snoozing and then you hear this and it seems to kind of like stir you, you know? And when you open your eyes, you don't see the cave around you. But you see this creature in the dark who seems to sort of like be singing from underwater. And you hear this ephemeral singing sort of like building and building to where it almost sounds like multiple voices singing this. And then as this is happening, you hear this like, Bruce, come to us, Bruce.
Hey, what's up? I'm Bruce Fantana.
And it says, yes, Fantana.
I take it you've heard of me before.
I need Buttercup and Victor to roll me perception checks.
Womp womp.
Okay. So, Buttercup, you don't wake up until a moment after. But Victor, you wake up to hear Bruce fumbling with the door in his sleep, right? And you sort of like stand up to see like what he's doing as the door sort of like opens wide.
I'm gonna follow you.
As you take a few steps over and you sort of like get to peek around this corner over here,
2 seconds for him.
To reconnect, my bad.
you're good. So you're following Bruce, right?
Yes.
So as you sort of clear this corner and you're coming around to like see what Bruce is doing over here at the door, like in the middle of the night, you see as Bruce climbs onto the back of this like large black stallion. And the two of them are going to sort of like turn and slowly begin walking outside.
He has not only a eagle call, he now gets a black stallion.
Why's got to be a black stallion? Sorry, that's actually a direct quote from Robot Chicken. So
Oh shit, I'm sorry, I still had you guys on that page back there. Sorry, let me put you guys over here. So Bruce and Victor, just to kind of replay what happened, because I had you guys on the wrong screen. Here, let me go ahead and actually move this music back. So
It's a death horse.
essentially what happened is, Victor, you like sat up in bed over here as Bruce was kind of like fumbling with the door. And as you followed him this way and kind of came around this corner, you saw him like climb onto the back of this horse. And Victor, as you're looking at this horse has like these pearly white eyes, and as it like kind of breathes, it has like this like cold condensation that kind of comes out of its mouth. And it's sort of like walking out the cave here, and it's leaving these hoof prints of salt water behind it.
See ya.
I am going to, stealthily try and follow.
BRB.
Okay. I'm gonna put you guys over here. All right. So Bruce Fantana is there. Victor, you are outside the cave down here. And Buttercup, at this point, you're going to wake up just in time to see Victor, like, sort of like quickly walking out the door behind these two here.
All right, she's going to try to quickly and stealthily go behind and try to catch Victor and Whisper because she doesn't want to leave Asha, Beatrice, and Cecily alone at the moment. So she's going to try to do that. Let me roll stealth real quick.
Victor and Buttercup, as the two of you are watching, here, let me change this. As the two of you are watching, this black horse that Bruce Fantana is riding on is going to like walk towards the edge of this cliff here, and then it is going to leap off the cliff with Bruce Fantana on its back, and as it's like falling towards the water, the horse itself is going to convert into water, and Bruce Fantana is going to plunge into the water below. And Bruce, you are still in your dream, like hearing this call from this like dark place from this creature. And when you hit this water, you feel yourself you feel yourself sort of immersed in this water, and you're kind of like half awake and half not, and you're blinking underwater trying to get your bearing, and you're seeing these like dark figures sort of like swimming in the water about you. And you blink your eyes and you see like these like mermaid figures there, but then you like blink again and they're gone. And Victor, you and Buttercup again are back up on the cliff, like holy shit, like that thing just carried Bruce off the cliff. And Bruce has not yet emerged from the water.
Buttercup, under her breath, can this week get any weirder?
I'm assuming Bruce is not cognizant of any of this, right?
You're halfway cognizant. Bruce, can I get everybody to roll me perception? Bruce, can you do so at disadvantage?
Ooh. Yes.
All right, 19. Is that 11 for Buttercup?
4. It's a crit and a nat 1 side by side. What?
Okay. So, Bruce does not see it quite yet. But Victor and Buttercup. Where's Buttercup? Let me put her on this. She had the stimulus. Oh, wait, Buttercup. Here. Victor and Buttercup, the two of you see this like large black thing sort of like working its way under the water towards Bruce. And Bruce, you are not able to detect this thing moving towards you.
God damn it.
Can I get everyone to roll me initiative?
Yep. 28.
Yeah, Buttercup, there you go. You're still up there. 28. Wow, look at that initiative.
Did mine go through? Because it said you wanted it to send the result of this roll to the turn tracker, but no valid token was selected.
You have to click your token and then press initiative.
All right, so you didn't see the initiative I rolled?
Did you roll 21?
Okay, yeah, then there we go.
Cool. Let me just go ahead and manually adjust it. Okay, cool. So there you go. All right.
That thing's gross looking.
It is gross looking. So here. So Bruce, you are underwater trying to get a sense of what is what when this large creature just sort of surges up out of the water towards you and is going to attempt to like stab you with these long black spindly claws. I'll show you guys up close what this thing looks
It's a middling attack roll. Spooky looking dude.
OMG, it's a fish jail. Look at it.
like. All right, but it is not able to hit you here, Bruce. As you like catch the spindles before they hit you, and you're like, ugh. All right, and that was actually going to be its surprise attack. So we will start with the top of the round. Bruce, you're up first. What would you like to do?
But Bruce doesn't get surprised.
Bruce doesn't get surprised, but you, you didn't. Let me think of how this was because I wasn't considering.
That's a very good point.
It's alert.
All right, so let me do this then. 17. Okay, so let me say this. Bruce, as this thing is approaching you, you can see it is going to attempt to attack you.
Okay.
I probably should have handled it that way instead of doing perception. See, this is why I was doing it. It's not that you were surprised, it's that you didn't see it approaching.
Yeah, it's all good. He's like in a weird dream
No, that's
state.
the same thing. I don't know.
He's dream
So
state.
basically, what's
It's
happening, Bruce,
fine.
is you can see this thing is coming for you. It's going to attempt to attack you when it gets to you.
Okay. So could I punch it a bunch?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna expend one key point,
Okay.
and I'm gonna flurry of blows. So I'm gonna try to get after him 3 times. We're gonna do the main attack. 24 to
That
hit.
will hit. Okay.
Bonus, and we're gonna try to do the 15-foot thing, uppercut it in the air.
Okay.
That's
I will
22.
say that
Jesus.
you are currently in water. So, how does this work?
It depends on how deep he is.
Maybe.
He's swimming. He's over the reef right now.
I mean,
Well, I mean,
I can
don't-
at least punch it 15 feet away from me, right?
I think you
if it's
can,
difficult
actually. I don't
terrain, then
think it says anything about that with your class. I think you can still do. So, where exactly are you trying to kick this thing?
Well,
It's going to take that 7
I would
damage as
prefer
well.
to kick it up in the air, but
Up in the air.
yeah.
Okay. So as it as it swims towards you, Bruce, you like catch it at the last minute and get your attack in, and then kick it up in the air. That is going to lift it out of the water. It's going to splash up in the air, giving Victor and Buttercup your first like good look at this thing as it's sort of like thrown up by this unexpected force. That's going to prompt an attack of opportunity from you, Bruce.
Boom. That's a crit.
Wow. Wow. So that's going to be 10 damage there. Okay.
So as it falls
you
down,
still-
I want to hit it again for the 3rd time, and also try to knock it up 15 feet.
Okay. Keep in mind you only get 1 reaction per turn, and an opportunity attack is a reaction.
Fair enough.
Okay.
25.
Wow, that's gonna hit. Holy crap, Bruce. So, this thing tried to
Not
swim
on
up
my
on you, and
watch.
you kicked the crap out of it.
Yeah, no way, bud.
Alright, and then it is going to try and attack you and fail to do so, which puts us all at the top of the current round, in which Bruce Fantana, you're up first.
Not gonna expend a key point. I'm just gonna try to punch him twice. 23 to hit on the first one.
That'll hit.
24 to hit on the next one. It's 15 damage.
Jesus, you're a monster.
God, dude.
He's not a monster. He's Bruce Fantana.
So Bruce, as you're just like pounding on the shell, right? The exterior of this like hard shell is beginning to kind of cave as this like tender, like grayish meat is exposed beneath it. And Victor and Buttercup, you guys are up next. What would y'all like to do? Actually, Buttercup is technically up first.
Well,
I'm technically
part of
up
me
there?
is tempted to transform and jump in there and try and punch it myself.
Yes. Buttercup is technically up first, but you guys are technically both up next, so it's whatever y'all want to do.
Well,
Do-
Buttercup was just gonna do like I was just gonna have her cast Hunter's Mark and start firing at it.
Do it.
Okay, yeah,
Do
go
it.
ahead. You make
So
no-
I cast Hunter's Mark and then I do longbow twice plus sneak attack, right? And then roll a d6.
You were gonna roll 2 attacks this round because it's your first round of combat.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, first round of combat. Yeah, so that's correct. Yeah. And you have archery fighting style, so it should be super accurate. Oof. Okay. So the first time that Bruce knocks this thing out of the water, Victor, quick as a flash, Buttercup draws one of those arrows she's been carving and fires it off. And it kind of like glances off that hard shell. But the second time Bruce kicks it out of the water, Buttercup fires another arrow and it like lands right in that fleshy meat. This thing kind of recoils a little bit as it takes that 8 damage there. Man, you guys are nuking this thing. Go ahead and add your sneak attack and your, I think it's a D8.
Had to reconnect again. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
All right, so minus an additional 3 damage.
Did you roll the D6 for the hunter's mark as well?
No, I did not.
Ooh.
I forgot about that.
God, I forgot about that. Ridiculous. Okay, minus 4. Wow,
It's a lot.
Vicious arrow. That is a lot of damage.
A lot of damage.
Okay, Buttercup. Anything else you want to do with your turn?
That's gonna be it.
Okay, Victor, you're up next. What would you like to do, sir?
I think I'm going to transform into Braxis, so that I can jump in and start punching the shit out of the thing too.
Okay, go right ahead. So you are going to shift over into Braxis and leap right on in there, huh?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Jump as the, I guess. 1 second.
Where are you trying to position yourself?
I'm just trying to jump at the thing and like punch it in the face at like kind of at the same time if I can, but I probably can't.
It's a really good
Okay,
strategy.
okay, let's do it. You can certainly make an attack, yeah. Are you trying to move yourself into anywhere in particular in addition to jumping in?
I mean, if I can get on the other side of it from Bruce, then I will try, but I don't know if I can.
Yeah, I mean, technically you were jumping down, so it wasn't like a super far jump. You will be able,
Okay.
yeah, you'll be able to get to like up here-ish. That's about it.
Dope. So yeah, after that, I'm gonna punch the shit out of it.
Punch the shit out of it. Take that flanking advantage.
Punching is OP.
Punching is OP.
I think I'm gonna take the first one.
Damage. So, Bruce, after just viciously nuking this thing, you see the arrow sink into like its gray flesh as you're kicking it out of the water for the second time. And Braxis is going to just like fly into the water, like landing with a tremendous splash and sort of swimming around to the side of this thing. It is going to leap into like where you had damaged it before, and he is going to begin punching that side there. You watch as this thing like recoils violently.
Bruce is confused. He's unsure why this thing is not scared of them.
You can always roll insight.
Yeah? 19. Haven't you heard of me before? Are you
Alright,
not afraid
so-
of Bruce Fantana?
Everyone roll insight, or not insight, I'm sorry, initiative, if you haven't done so already.
Buttercup.
Oh,
Okay. And Bruce, you want to spend your next turn essentially like assessing this thing
Sure.
to figure out what's going on with it.
Sure.
Okay. So, Buttercup, you are up first. You currently see the two guys like sort of wrestling with this thing in the water, but it is now like at the surface. As Braxis and Bruce are like struggling with it. What would you like to do?
She's gonna fire off again. Um, Still has hunter's mark on it, right?
Yep, and you get sneak attack.
So do I roll? I roll twice and then sneak attack.
You don't get advantage anymore.
Okay.
So-
Okay, so I roll once for longbow
Right, so
and then
roll
sneak
once.
attack.
But sneak attack and hunter's mark, yeah.
Got it.
Whew.
Wow. Uh,
That's pretty fucking good.
That is
yeah.
insane, dude. That's so much damage.
That's
One.
fine. That's fine.
Another whopping 15 as you guys are struggling with this thing. Another arrow is going to like sink in and catch this thing like right in one of its big like pearly eyes. Which Bruce and Braxis, you each notice this thing also has white eyes. All right. Anything else to do in this turn, Buttercup?
Nope, that's gonna be it.
It sort of shrieks and recoils. Bruce, you're up next. You have advantage on everything you do.
Everything I do?
Yep.
Well,
because
your attacks,
You're
yeah.
flanking it right now with Braxis.
Okay. So I don't know if Bruce wants to attack it.
It is trying to kill. It is trying to attack you.
It did try and stab you, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
fuck
it tried
him.
to straight up stab you.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit him 3 times, and possibly 4. One, first one, 21 to hit.
Okay.
First bonus, 15.
Wow. Okay. Start with that -8. All right.
Does 15 hit?
Well, your 21 hits, and since it's at advantage, we'll take the 8 damage. Yeah.
Okay, so roll twice.
Yeah. So that was your
Yeah,
first.
roll twice for each attack.
Wow.
Wow,
two-
7 damage.
Take that
Okay.
7 damage one.
knock
It
it
is
back.
starting to look extremely wounded.
Knock it back 15 feet. So that provokes opportunity, right?
Which direction are you knocking it in?
Up.
Up. Okay. So you knock it out of the water once again.
So 26. That's 8 damage, and then as it falls down, I want to kick it into the air as hard as I can. 26.
Wow. Another 6 damage.
Huzzah!
Braxis, you also get an attack of opportunity. Wow.
Don't-
At
Don't-
advantage.
Don't come at me, bro.
All right. So as Bruce
That's great.
Fantana is like wombo comboing this Spindly horror, right? And just like its shell at this point, Bruce's knuckles are just like crushing right through it into the meat below, and it's like sort of hissing and recoiling Braxis as its attention is currently on you, you know, as you've been attacking its wound. But Bruce suddenly kicks it up into the air, and as it comes back down, he strikes it again. Braxis, how do you finish this thing off?
So that one of those massive furry mitts is just going to crunch right through the broken chitin along its head and straight into like its brain, just smashing through the brain matter.
All right, and you just like rip it right out.
Yeah.
Combat style, and that is going to kill this creature, which shudders and dies immediately.
Oh shit.
Its nerves fire a little bit, but that is going to essentially end its life.
You poor thing.
All right, and Bruce, you no longer see these like dark shapes swimming around you. They are gone. And Braxis, as you are looking at this creature, it is a very unique looking creature. You haven't really seen anything like this.
I'm gonna do my best to drag it to shore so I can try and get some samples, or Victor can get some samples.
Okay. Victor, as you shift back into Braxis, or I'm sorry, Braxis, as you shift back into Victor, you are looking at this creature, and it has a very interesting biological structure to it. this would be the first time you have encountered what you would call like an aberration.
I just seem intensely fascinated with it, and I'm going to start dissecting it like almost immediately on the beach.
Okay. Bruce, what are you going to do? And Buttercup. But Bruce, you're still in the water.
Bruce,
You're not too sure how you got here. You were like half dreaming. You remember going to bed, but you kind of woke up like swimming in this water surrounded by these things.
so Bruce saw the white eyes, right?
Yes, on this thing here.
Yeah. He just walks up to it, touches the side of the beast,
Mm-hmm.
and has a little moment of silence, and then walks away.
Bruce.
Yes.
I don't know if you would notice this. Victor, roll me a nature check as you're dissecting this creature, because you're actually going through it.
Buttercup shakes her head and like runs her hands through her hair, and the curls kind of like bounce and get back into order by that. Don't know how. It's curls. They, defy logic. And she just like trudges back into the cave. She's like, I need more sleep. Maybe some booze. Booze sounds great right about now.
Yeah, this is currently like the middle of the night. Keep that in mind. So you're probably feeling pretty rough. Bruce, you're welcome to go back in if you like. Victor, with that roll, you note that this creature is blind. And much of its body, its makeup is made to handle like extreme pressures.
Okay, so it lives deep, which would explain the white eyes,
But
blindness
this
down
creature
there.
was coming particularly for Bruce before you like leapt in on it as Braxis.
Yeah. So it was drawn to him, though. Does anything particular stick out for anything that I could use for myself on this creature?
There is a lot of it. In fact, as you're going through this like creature, you're like racking your brain and you're seeing lots of evidence of like the kind of biological makeup that you needed to kind of complete a project you've been working on for a while. And you get yourself like a syringe full of its like blood, and you like tuck it away, thinking like, this might work for my Cesarthic form.
Hold on, he was not able to hear you, so he is jumping out and back in.
That's fine. Let's see, it's about 140. Nice.
It's probably
Bring
good.
it- bring this to a close,
About a good
yeah.
stopping point.
Just let me know when he gets back.
Yep.
Meanwhile, check out the Ad Proficiency podcast on nerdjamtv.com.
Hey guys, do you like to enhance your tabletop experience? Make sure you check out nerdjamtv.com, where you can check out the Ad Proficiency podcast. You'll guaranteed to enhance your tabletop play. Finkel's been getting good plugs too. Finkel has been plugging pretty hard.
Good, man. I've been seeing him getting it with his streams.
Finkel's mythic, man. He's currently number 7 in the world.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah. I really want to get to number 1. I want to make like a cool video.
All right, I have it going.
That'd be wild.
I already clicked to go.
So I'm having issues connecting to Discord at all. So
Okay.
I'm on Sabby's right now.
That's okay. We're getting to a stopping point here.
Yeah.
Basically, what I was saying is, Victor, as you're going through this creature and you're like kind of looking at its physiology, you're like, wow, like there's some really interesting stuff going on here, and I'm seeing a lot of evidence. You're seeing a lot of evidence that this has the sort of genetic makeup that you might be able to use to finish like one of your other genetic projects that you've been working on, which is essentially your Cesarthic form.
Excellent. I seem very excited about this as I gather what I need and get back into the cave.
All right, everybody's gonna go back to bed.
Yes.
All right.
I love bed.
All right, everyone go ahead and rest for the remainder of the evening because it's early in the morning at this point. And we will go ahead and bring this session to a close.
Good sesh.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Yeah, we've got people in chat. Thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you check out Finkel on Saturday at 6 Central. And he and Mike are going to do Pride Core 21. Why not? He's currently ranked in the top 10 in the entire world in Limited. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. These are fun.
Yeah, awesome RP session, guys.
Yeah.
I had a blast.
It was a really good session. Eddie, did you have fun? Savannah, did Eddie have fun?
He had a ton of fun. He keeps trying to fix his phone and is getting frustrated.
It's okay.
Okay.
Great stopping point. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Love you all so much, and y'all have a good night.
Everyone have a good night. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Joe.